Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, and so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show. Booyah!
Didn't know that. Last day of February. March is next. That means baseball.
Yeah, it also means we're going to get crushed by snow because we've had almost no snow in February.
You're right.
You know we're going to get screwed in March. There'll be a snowstorm in April this year.
Don't say that.
There almost always is.
Yeah,
we almost
get one.
Whether it's a storm or 2 or 3 inches. I
Yeah.
consider a storm. 6 inches is a storm to me.
And
But
you know it's going to be 40 degrees on opening day.
Yes,
it always
that's
is.
going to happen.
Yeah, that's going to stink. Weird configuration today. Not weird, just different. G. Bush, sick again in his place.
On the replacement.
The only McNuggets. And, of course, Adam the Bull is here. That means Anthony's punching the buttons.
Right.
Hey, everybody. It's been a while since I've been back
Calling for the buttons to be pushed. He's producing today.
Yeah.
Director Steve looked at me like, wait a minute, who's hitting the buttons
I'm not
here?
allowed to push any buttons.
No, just the button to talk to us.
It's not that highly trained yet.
You ready for this, Anthony? You nervous? How do you feel when you sit in for
I took a
McNuggets?
2-month hitus from speaking or being on camera after that debacle of stand-up I had, so I'm happy to be back.
We're glad to have you back. It hasn't even been 2 months.
It was 3 weeks ago of tomorrow. And
Yeah.
Anthony, great start. You're going to crush it today, but let's change the banner. That's our last topic of the show.
He's
I don't know what you're talking about.
He's co-producing. You have a story about your stand-up. Speaking of stand-up.
So I saw my parents this weekend for the first time since we did the show. And as I've told you guys before, I think I did pretty well, except I used some vulgar language in the show because it's stand-up. It's comedy, a lot. And
You could do stand-up without cursing.
Could you?
No, definitely. But you could.
Maybe I could.
Seinfeld famously.
Yes, Jim
does.
Gaffigan doesn't curse.
Gaffigan's clean. Way back in the day, Bill Cosby was clean.
Well, at least on the stage.
With his language.
Oddly enough,
Allegedly.
when I wrote out my routine, it wasn't full of vulgar words. And then when you get up there, it just you add in for a little color. Well, and then I see my mom, and I love my mom, and she comes in, and she's just like, I am so disgusted by the language you used during your stand-up. How could you? I raised you better than that. She said she laughed at one joke, and the rest she'll never watch again. But there's certain
What
words.
joke did she laugh at?
The only clean one.
The only clean
And
joke.
she didn't get it. It was the Jason one.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Avon
Some of those
Lake-
she probably didn't get.
Some of the Ohio ones she didn't get.
Yeah.
Some of the one about.
A lot of it was inside baseball stuff. If she watches every day, she might get
She got the. I played the clip about you. She got the one about Jay. Tyvis is her favorite because who doesn't love Tyvis?
Tyvis is everybody's favorite.
Right.
And she goes, I never really noticed his hairline, but you're kind of right.
Yeah.
You're kind of right. I was like, sorry, Tyvis.
My mother actually saw mine. And
Yeah, wow.
Wait, the
pretty
real
thrown.
version or the?
Yeah. And she was pretty thrown off by that. Not surprised at all.
You don't use that kind of language in front of your mother, do you?
No, I mean I curse, sure. I curse
But
in
not-
front of
not-
everybody.
not with that frequency.
But not like to that extreme.
You had one sentence where you just hit them all.
Did all the curses. Yeah, it was a smorgasbord
Minus
of
one.
cursing.
Minus one.
Minus
Talked
one.
about it
Minus
yesterday.
one. Busy show today. We've got Cavs, Guardians, and really Browns heavy. Personnel matters.
Yeah.
Future on the stadium matters. Coaching matters. Very, very busy show. So let's dive right into it, shall we? The Browns this morning. Oh, we got a read to do. My bad. Sorry. Go ahead,
I do
Anthony.
have some of that. 1 second, I have to change everything myself back.
See, whenever I blow
There you
through
Yeah,
a read like
Bet
that,
Rivers action.
McNuggets has no problem just saying, Jay, we got to read.
Hey,
Yeah, so we got Bulls Bet of the Day brought to you by Bet
Yeah.
Rivers.
Did
Hey,
you win it
Ohio,
yesterday?
Bet Rivers online sport book.
I did a season
Future.
long
You're right.
yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
My bad.
Go ahead.
You guys are killing me today.
I know.
Hey, Ohio, Bet Rivers online sportbook is the place to be for every single game. Now is the perfect time to join Bet Rivers Sportbook. When you use code SPORTS to deposit money, you'll receive a second chance bet up to $500. Get in on all the action with weekly specials on your favorite sports like basketball and hockey to help you win big. Check out betrivers.com or download the Bet Rivers app today for the latest lines, odds, and boosts.
And again, my podcast coming up 6 days from now will return as part of the Bet Rivers
Still
Podcast
called The Bullpen?
Network. Still called The Bullpen.
Good.
Yes, the Bet Rivers Podcast Network has Mike Francesa in New York, Mike Missinelli in Philadelphia. It has one in Chicago.
Is Francesa no longer on the radio in New York?
He is no longer on the radio. He does a Bet Rivers podcast.
Wow.
Yes, he retired.
Yeah.
And then he was sick of being retired, and he
pulled the director Steve.
Yeah, very good.
And now he's doing the podcast.
Okay.
He's enjoying that. By the way, my I'll have more details on Twitter, but my Bet Rivers podcast, once a week, it will be a national show. So I'm going to be doing
nice.
Anywhere from 2 to 4 Cleveland-centric podcasts a week. And then once a week, I'll be doing a national
Is it a daily, 5 days a week, or
It's going to vary from week to week.
depending on what's going on?
It'll be anywhere from 3 to 5 podcasts a week.
What is your bet? What's your record? 5-4?
5-4
Okay.
with 2 season longs that we're going to have to wait for the
Yeah.
end of the baseball season. Today, I'm going local. We're going Ball State +9 at
that's a
Akron.
big one.
They're
Talking about that one in the streets.
all over the place. This is the biggest game in Ohio history. Bigger than playoff games for the Browns, bigger than the World Series for the Guardians. Who doesn't love Ball State at Akron?
David Letterman's watching this one.
He's
closely.
locked in.
Yeah.
He's
What's
locked
the
in.
Ball State mascot?
The Cardinals.
Ball State Cardinals.
Job out of you.
Yeah.
So there you go. Ball State +9 at Akron. Ball State beat Akron at home. Ball State's played pretty well. Both teams have a similar record.
How much did they beat them by when they had them at their place?
I can't remember now. I think 5 or 6.
That's pretty close.
So
Pretty
getting
close.
9, I know it's on the road, but
Yeah.
Ball State's played pretty well here, so I like them to keep it close.
Okay.
So
Very
there you
good.
go.
Good luck. We don't want to be at 500. 500's break even.
No,
you make
it's not
money
good.
when you're 5-4,
That's right.
6-4.
Absolutely.
So we'll watch
Gotta
that closely.
get back on track here.
Okay, now to our Brown stuff. They cut, and we saw this coming. Yesterday we talked about John Johnson. The 3 was probably John Johnson the 3rd. JJ3 was likely to be a casualty when the news came out that the Browns were interested in Bengal safety Jesse Bates. It happened this morning. It clears up almost $10 million in cap space, $9.75 million in cap space. First of all, anybody have a problem with the Browns cutting JJ3?
No,
because
like
I
you
did.
said, we thought it was. I think we all thought it was likely, if not definite. So
He underperformed in my book in his second season. His first season, he did about what I thought he would do, but last year he just took a step back.
I gotta say, Jay, I thought he was not even that good in his first season.
I
I thought he was better. I agree.
yeah.
But still, like when he came here, he was. And listen, as we talk about all the time, PFF is not perfect. Those grades are not perfect.
Right.
They make mistakes too. But he was a PFF darling when the Browns signed him.
Yeah.
He had a huge grade the year before, and I thought he was going to be a difference maker. And even when he was better his first year, he wasn't a difference maker.
No.
He never really was.
You know what
He
I
was
wonder
a big
about that,
disappointment.
Bull and McNuggets? It's system. We always talk about, is it system or is it player?
Yeah,
When Hill and Johnson were with the Rams,
they were good.
they were
Both of
they
them.
were one of the top combos in the league.
Yeah,
And they came here, and Hill took a big step back.
yeah.
Johnson, I thought, took a step back from what we saw when he was with the Rams. Hill went back to the Rams and almost immediately went right back to the level he was playing at before, which really leads me to believe Joe Woods' system may have been so screwed up that you could take good players and put them in it and they underperform. That has me really excited about what this could look like with Schwartz next year.
Especially in the secondary, because we know they have a lot of talent there.
It's there.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw Denzel take a step back.
Right.
We've just seen it. Newsome took a step back. I'm putting a lot of faith that Schwartz is going to get these guys back to playing at the level that we're accustomed to.
Yeah, when you look at John Johnson, he was 5th his final year in LA in the PFF grades.
Yeah.
And like both said, those grades are flawed. But this year, he was the 63rd ranked safety, and he was finished 85th among safeties in tackling grades. So they asked him to be a run stuffer, a strong safety, free safety hybrid. He didn't force turnovers like they expected him to.
No.
Yeah.
He didn't stop the run like they expected him to, and he never turned into the leader I think they paid him to be. I mean, you remember some of the plays that Tyvus and G. Bush broke down, the effort plays where Tyvus said, yeah, there was nothing he could really do, but when we look at it,
He gave up on
he
plays.
gave up on a play.
Yeah.
And when you have a guy making that much money in a position of leadership, which he did wear the green dot for a little bit. Correct me if I'm
Right.
wrong, right?
Yeah. And he was looked at as a veteran leader.
You
Yeah.
cannot have that guy not put out the effort necessary to inspire the other 10 players on the field. And I think that was the biggest miss from John Johnson, whether it's Andrew Berry, Joe Woods, Stefanski, whoever thought, hey, this guy could be our defensive leader.
Yeah.
That was a bigger miss than what he did on the field.
I just wonder if the talent isn't there. It was just misused by Joe Woods.
I think that that's a fair criticism to some degree, but I never give the player a total pass when they don't perform. Even if I blame the system some, I got to give some blame to the player. And ultimately, I think John Johnson would often talk in press conferences as if he was a leader on a team.
Talked a great game.
Right,
Yeah.
but I don't want to hear what you have to say when you're not performing on the field.
Right.
And so, we talked about the Jesse Bates thing yesterday, and we all talked about, hey, it might not be the smartest idea to spend a ton of money on safety. Mary Kay reporting today that Jesse Bates is potentially a target after we discussed it.
He's, quote, on their radar.
Right. Yeah. And listen, I think we all agree that there's bigger priorities at defensive tackle, wide receiver, and maybe even linebacker. However, if they're willing to go, if they're like, hey, we already went all in on Deshaun Watson, let's go crazy.
Right.
Then John Johnson and Jesse Bates is a significant upgrade. Jesse Bates is more of a game changer. Now, he's not Minka Fitzpatrick. He's not super elite, but he's just below that. And he's really good.
I think he's where Johnson was when he came here.
I think he's even better than that.
You do?
I do.
Johnson was top 5 safety.
Right, but he had done it for 1 year, Johnson.
Right.
Bates
has
has
a longer
been
track
consistently good, really good. Not to mention something similar to Johnson when they brought him in. Part of the reason they brought him in is because of his playoff experience. Well, Jesse Bates has gone to the AFC Championship game 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
He went to the Super Bowl the year before. But he also knows what it's like to lose because he was here earlier on the Bengals when it was bad. So he would be.
And he knows the division.
He knows the division. He would be a good influence on even though he's not old, he's as much a veteran as any of the guys in the secondary.
He's been to a Super Bowl.
Been to a Super Bowl.
So you have a comment from JJ3?
Yeah, if we want to take tag board full here. So he says, I wish I could have done more while here. However, I know my best ball is ahead of me. So he's still kind of talking like a leader there.
Yeah.
He's taking the class he wrote out.
I mean, you don't see players kind of blame themselves at all.
No.
And he is a little bit.
And he went back on, and the rest of that quote was in the article, and he essentially said, I can still play. It didn't work out here. I'm sorry, Cleveland, that I didn't live up to expectations, but wherever I go next, you're going to get a quality player. And I had a thought this morning when I was kind of playing these scenarios through my mind. We know the Browns, what's what I'm looking for? They prioritize certain things, and defensive line and defensive tackle was not something they prioritized this year. In a pass-happy league, I'm curious if they look at the climate of the NFL and say, we can't stop the run, but teams don't run the ball enough, that even though defensive tackle may be a more glaring issue talent-wise to where we're not up to league average at least, is it more valuable to get a high-end back-end safety because it's such a pass-happy league?
I don't know. Again, I've said this before. I don't know that I agree that they don't prioritize defensive line. I just think they haven't evaluated it well.
Well, that and ultimately you are prioritizing certain things. You just are. And based on
money spent,
allocations of assets. How are you allocating your assets? And it has been abundantly clear for a number of years that they are all in on defensive backs.
True.
They've gone high in the draft with defensive backs. It makes sense that you are a pass-happy league, and they probably feel as long as we have Myles Garrett, and previously this year would be different, you've got Jadeveon Clowney as bookends, we're pretty good up front. So I think they neglected the middle and the interior of the defensive line, middle meaning linebackers.
Yeah.
Well, what the NFL is so good at doing is diagnosing. They're so good, particularly, I think Belichick really started that. Okay, what do you do well? Where's your strength? On both offense and defense. Your strength is defensive backs? Okay, that's cool. We're going to run it. And what was stunning to me was when we played teams, when the Browns played teams that did not make that adjustment, the Buccaneers, they ended up winning. It was a very close game.
The first Bengals game.
But the first Bengals game, these guys, they came in there and said, our strength versus your strength, we just feel we're better.
Right.
Well, they beat Burrow and Brady in those two games.
Yeah.
Then you had a team like Atlanta that at halftime was smart enough to figure out these guys suck against the run.
Right.
And they started bringing second and third team running backs in with injury.
Right.
Guys that were on the practice squad 3 days earlier.
Who did nothing after that.
They did nothing after that, but they gashed the Browns where they were weak.
Yeah. And I would have to believe Andrew Berry, if nothing else, is a very smart guy.
Yes.
I would have to believe that after years of mid-tier draft capital on linebacker and defensive tackle, that to this point has failed. Now, maybe those guys with a better coach will improve. We'll see.
Yeah.
But you can't rely on that at this point.
No.
They have to spend some capital at defensive tackle, financial capital.
You're right.
And I think it makes sense to do it, whether that's free agency or trade, and not via the draft.
And Deron Payne got franchise tagged this morning, who was
surprise,
the one guy we all wanted.
We knew that would happen. Though.
Right.
It was expected.
Nobody was even planning on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it was interesting as I look at the allocation of money, how they're doing this. Do you have a ballpark of what you think the Bates deal will be worth?
Mary Kay
Is
reported.
he going to get $15 million
Mary
a
Kay
year?
reported upward of 14.
I said
Okay.
15 yesterday, so Mary Kay said 14. She would have a better idea than
Yeah.
me, but
She said upwards of 14 and
right.
up,
So
right
somewhere in
that
that neck of the
So-
woods.
which is more than John Johnson was making, for the record. So they actually
It is.
spending more
Right.
money
He's
on
gonna
the
make
safety
12,
position.
right? Or
He was going to make
13?
13.
Okay,
so
13.
essentially the same. But
So essentially the same, but the cap hit at 9.34 or 9.75 for JJ3 means it's gonna take money away from other areas.
Right. Unless they get creative. Oh, look at my guy Cleve TA.
Love
Johnson
Cleve.
will have to be a post June 1st cut to save $9.75 million. So unfortunately, the Browns can't use the cap space until after June 1st. Watson's 33 to 35 million conversion to bonus will be the next domino, I'm sure.
so
See,
that's
I wondered about that. I wondered why they were, because it said originally, I think it was Mike Garofalo
Who had it? Yep,
had
first.
tweeted
Yeah.
that March 15th, when the league year starts.
Yeah.
But I thought that June 1st was the date.
Right.
But they announced it. So do they not get the full cap relief?
I think, if Cleve TA is saying that, his
a
whole
dom.
life
He's a
is
genius.
stats and analytics and cap. He's all over
Jason
it.
Lloyd's going to join us.
Jason,
We'll ask
yeah.
him, but I agree with you.
But I
Cleve
think
TA
I
is-
think you can designate a guy as a post June 1st cap hit, which means he becomes a free agent once the league year starts, I believe.
he's just giving
But
him a
that-
run up, and the other teams a run up knowing
right,
he's available.
but that you can't use the extra cap space until after June.
Okay. Yeah. Well, and you could post date a deal with Bates
True.
to June 1st.
Right, or somebody else,
Or someone else.
Right,
Right.
you know. So yeah, we'll see.
Here's
but
I think my biggest concern on all of this was, what if there are other teams that want safeties? The Browns are not alone in
Absolutely.
that basket.
yeah,
and the Bengals going to try to re-sign Bates too.
Sure
They're
they
not signing
will. No,
up.
they
But they won't be able to reach that number.
I
they
agree.
won't. They have to re-sign Burrow. They have to sign Chase next year. They have a lot of good free agents.
Yeah.
What percentage
You
would you
think
put
Mixon's
at that?
gone, right?
Mixon, they're going to cut.
Yeah.
Probably. I don't think there's any. The only way Bates comes back to the Bengals is if they franchise tag him a second year, which I doubt they'll do.
Okay.
They've never done that before, so I don't think they'll do it.
Fair.
I think there's no way Bates, because they have, like I said, they want to extend Burrow this offseason. T. Higgins is a free agent after this year. Logan Wilson's a free agent after this year.
Chase is going to have to get paid.
Chase is next year, but what's his name's a free agent. Their other good linebackers.
Pratt.
Pratt is a free agent.
They've got a lot
Hayden
of
Hurst
issues
is a free
coming out.
agent. They got to decide what to do at right tackle with Lyle Collins. Now, they have a ton of cap. They're actually fifth in cap space in the league.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
They're
they
gonna
can
need it, though.
And they could create more by cutting Mixon and Lyle Collins, which I think they should do. But the point is, I'll be stunned if Bates is back.
So
on the Bengals.
my
more thing.
fear is they get in a bidding war with someone.
But there'll be other teams. Yes.
And if it gets too rich for their blood and they tap out, and
Yeah.
now they don't have JJ3, that could be an issue.
Two things. So we talked about yesterday, ESPN predicted Bates to go to the Browns in their free agent predictor. PFF predicted Bates to go to the Falcons.
Yeah.
So
There will be
they're
other
Who
teams.
they're
cut
other
Marcus
teams.
Mariota today?
Yeah, I
by
know
the
that.
To
way.
save
Yeah.
$12 million in a different cap casual
Right,
situation.
yeah.
So Bates is no lock by any means to come here. There's a guy on that list, Juan Thornhill from KC.
Right.
If it's not Bates, he's the guy.
Those are all good players.
Yeah.
I mean, Bates is the best, but those are all.
And Thornhill will come at half the
There's
price.
guys, actually, what's his name? Oh my God, I'm drawing a blank again. The Bengals' other safety,
Von Bell.
Von Bell.
Why do
He's
I know
also
the
a
Bengals
free
better
agent.
than you? Come on, Paul.
The names
He's
are just falling
blanking
out of
out.
my head
Chop,
right
chop.
now. I don't know what's happening.
By the
So-
way, we didn't talk about the diet. How'd the diet go yesterday?
Great,
Good?
great. Everything's good.
Feel good?
I feel fantastic.
Wow.
Yeah.
I just thought maybe he's getting brain fog for lack of food. That's
Yeah,
why I
maybe
brought that
that's
up.
it.
Maybe
I
that's
don't
what
know.
it is.
Hey, sometimes you do. When I'm hungry, all
I'm not
all
hungry
shut
though.
down.
I don't know, but I can't think of their safeties.
Well, that's great news that you're not
I'm here. I
hungry.
got you. Don't worry.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. One way or another, we'll continue to follow this.
Yeah.
The Browns now are going to need another safety. So if
Sure.
it's not Bates, it's going to have to be someone that can come in. The good thing about Schwartz is he knows the personnel. He's been in the game. He obviously knows who's available, who's good,
Yeah.
who will fit perfectly in his system. Sometimes a team will make a signing, and it's not the best available player, the widely accepted best available player.
Right.
But it's the player that best fits what defensive coordinator or head coach wants
No
to
doubt.
do.
I
And-
think Jermaine Pratt, who we just mentioned, who I couldn't think of his name and you did, is also another excellent fit for the Browns.
He'd be awesome.
I mean,
Yeah.
he was phenomenal last year.
He's
Is
gonna get.
he a free agent?
He is a
He's
free
gonna
agent.
get paid though.
Wow.
He's gonna get
He's
paid.
going to get paid. Now, he exploded this year. He had been an okay player until this year, and then he
Right.
just had a monster year. But
How
it's
much of
another
that?
guy.
It's funny that you guys bring in the new DC,
Yeah.
and you had some guys who were, serviceable, maybe even mediocre, and all of a sudden blossomed. Kansas City is a team that's done that on both sides of the ball, offense and defense.
Yeah.
They had rookies starting all over the damn place.
6 rookies started.
And what's incredible about that is I read a piece a couple of days ago and it said, no, this wasn't luck. This wasn't, finding guys in the draft that other teams didn't find. This is Andy Reid coaching up players to be the best they can be.
I mean, coaching matters. We think about more on offense all the time, but the Bengals, DC has made a huge difference in some of their talent, and that's
why I was hoping like hell he would have gone to Arizona.
And I think he's part of the reason they're not afraid to let a couple of guys go because they're like, well, we'll bring in somebody else and Lou will do a good job with
It's
them.
a little bit like the Browns' offensive line.
Yep.
We've talked about that.
That's
before.
true. Yes.
You've got a guy in Callahan that no matter what piece of clay you give him, he seems to mold it into something that is really good.
Except Jed Wills, who might be the best piece of marble he's ever had to work with.
The thing with Wills is, I think, he comes in with such high expectations. When you're early first-round draft pick, that's something you don't think about for 10 years. We were spoiled by Joe Thomas. There are, most of the time he does his job. Yeah. When he does it, he looks so bad that his ceiling can be here and his floor is here.
I do think the more I thought about this, that Jedrick Wills is adequate at left tackle. He's not great, but comparing anybody to Joe Thomas is going to look bad.
Right.
And you made the point, and you're right. When he's bad, he looks really bad.
He just stands there.
He looks lost, and that's bad. But look at how, Wyatt Teller, the Browns got him for nothing. He had done nothing in Buffalo. Now, he hadn't been there long, but he was a late draft pick. It wasn't like he was a first-round pick.
Yeah.
Now, Pochich was a high pick, but he had not done anything in Seattle. He'd been terrible.
4 years, nothing.
And Callahan turns both of those guys into guys that are whispered for Pro Bowls.
Right.
Teller had an interesting year, but Pochich was on track to be a Pro Bowl player.
He was.
Top 5 rated PFF center.
Right.
Yeah, so maybe this is going to be one of those issues where Schwartz is to the defensive side what Callahan is to the offensive line, what the Bengals defensive coordinator was to their unit, what Andy Reid and his coordinators in Kansas City have been to their talent. Because everybody's good at this point. What can you get out of them? How can you maximize their skill set, put them in a position to showcase what they do best? And perhaps we weren't getting that with Joe Woods here.
He's going to have to.
Everyone might look better next year.
He's going to have to because there are too many holes, just on the defensive side. They can't fill them all in one offseason, whether it's draft guys, free agents, trades. They have too many holes to fill. So it is up to Schwartz to get the most out of the guys they have on this roster to maximize.
Right. At least in the first year.
At least
by the way, we are – so for those who don't know, the NFL a couple of years ago went to this thing where they have the tampering period for like 48 hours before the league year officially starts.
Right.
We will be live on the air when that tampering period begins in 13 days, 6 minutes, and 30 seconds. It is noon on Monday the 13th.
36
We're less than
minutes.
2 weeks away.
Yeah.
Was my math
Yeah,
bad?
2 weeks.
Okay, thank you. No, 13 days.
Yeah, it's almost due.
Almost 2 weeks. Yeah. You said next time. I meant 2 Mondays.
Sorry, 2 Mondays.
Minutia.
And so Monday at noon, which is when the tampering period begins, guys start signing unofficially immediately.
The reports are flying from agents. They get the word out. You know what's done.
So that second hour of that show for us that Monday
is going to be filled with
bonkers.
News. Filled with news. Hopefully some of it Browns related.
Yes.
By the way, I know we talked about this yesterday, but and it makes sense because we're going to make the turn to the stadium talk.
Right.
And I know a lot of you are very interested about the new stadium. What's going on? Where are they on that? I'm wondering, did the Haslams hit that $1 billion lottery and we didn't know about it? Like all of a sudden, they're throwing money around. Now we know they have deep pockets, but I mean, $875 million to get a quarter of the Bucks, Milwaukee Bucks, and now comes talk about the Browns Stadium. Now, for context, people are saying, I've had people yesterday say, "Wow, that stadium's not that old." Well, it's not, but you're surprised when you find out it's a quarter century old. But it's the 10th oldest stadium in the NFL. That's how
just the way
quickly
this
now
goes now.
That's how it
and
works.
It's not a good stadium. Let's face it.
It's a bad stadium.
Yeah.
I mean, as it was built, when I was in the very first game when the stadium opened, and I just remember thinking, feels like a glorified high school stadium. It just felt chintzy.
Yeah.
And it wasn't substantial. When you walk into AT&T in Dallas, I mean, it's a eighth wonder of the world for crying out loud.
It's a castle.
You go out now to Los Angeles and you go through that stadium. and it's a behemoth. It's a showpiece. That's what they build these days because they build a lot of things around it. And the plan in Cleveland is to do that. They want to develop a lot of the lakefront area. But according to this new report, and I want to preface this Neo-Trans blog reported last summer. They had some things right, but they were wrong on some things too. So I want to throw that out there. I believe that a lot of this information is probably true, but their track record is they missed on some things last summer. But according to this Neo-Trans, or this piece yesterday, the Browns and the Haslam Group hired a firm, the firm that built the Vikings' new stadium, to basically do a feasibility study. They wanted them to look at the old stadium, at First Energy, and to see the feasibility of upgrading that stadium, making bigger concourses, making some structural changes, as well as either adding a fixed or a retractable roof. So they looked at the feasibility of that, and then they also looked at the feasibility of buying land somewhere in Cleveland and building a brand new stadium. Most likely domed, because right now that thing's used maybe 15 dates a year, maybe.
Yeah.
The Haslams want to turn that into a moneymaker,
right,
maybe 3 times a month, 4 times a month, big events, concerts, tractor pulls, whatever, whenever.
Maybe the Super Bowl. Maybe.
The cities that have built new stadiums in this last round of new stadiums
all got Super Bowls.
All got Super Bowls. You know, you're talking about Minneapolis.
Right.
Detroit had one not long ago.
New
York had
those
one.
are all
They didn't
bigger
even build a
cities.
dome.
Do we have enough hotels?
That's the big question.
Yeah,
We've
right.
never hosted a Super Bowl, obviously. Yeah. Now, we've done pretty well with big events in the past.
Absolutely.
In 2016, we hosted more big events than any city in the country. We had the RNC, we had the World Series,
NBA
and we had the
champions.
NBA Finals.
Plus, in the last few years, you've had the NBA and MLB All-Star games.
Right. So
Has the Final Four been here?
Not yet.
Okay.
Now, the Super Bowl, I think the women's Final Four is coming.
Coming next year.
Yeah. Now, the Super Bowl is a different beast.
Sure. Bigger
it's a
than all those.
completely different beast.
Yeah.
The number of hotel rooms that you need, I would think, vastly exceeds what we have and also what we needed for the NBA championship round,
right,
as well as the World Series. Anyhow, this feasibility study that was done basically concluded what everyone thought it would. That stadium was not well enough built to start thinking about putting a roof on it.
Yeah.
I mean, that seems like something that you would see, you know, some guys build a fort, some kids build a fort in the woods.
Right.
Probably not very safe. So I think what we're most likely looking at is the Haslams or the city purchasing a swath of land downtown. And oddly enough, the piece of land that has most been looked at is where we are sitting right now.
Right next to us, right?
Here.
I mean, they want to take over this too?
Yeah, well, if they use the footprint that's been discussed, this building would be gone.
Wow, I didn't realize it was coming all the way to us.
I didn't think it was that far.
So the footprint that you would need would be 4 city blocks.
Yeah.
You would need from 13th, East 13th, all on Lakeside.
Yeah.
East 13th to East 17th.
Well, everything east of us is abandoned, basically.
Well, there is, I think, the
There's
FBI
an FBI building, but
is
everything east
immediately
of that
to the
is
east.
Yeah.
Well, it's
awful.
old factories.
Yeah.
There's a homeless mission
right,
on
across the
Lakeside.
street. Yeah.
Yeah, so all of that would be displaced. All of those old factories knocked to the ground. There is enough room. You just have to buy out WKYC.
Right.
You have to buy out the FBI building, and those buildings would need to be relocated. So that would come at a big price tag.
Yeah.
But one way or another, what they're looking at is buying some land here, which is directly across the railroad tracks and I-90 from Burke Lakefront, to give you some sort of reference of where it is. So it's only about a driver and a 3-iron from First Energy, where it is now. It's not that far away, but obviously this would be a major undertaking. They would have to start construction most likely by 2026, and it sounds like it's a long way away, but it's not.
Nope.
The Haslam's timetable for all of this is faster than the city's timetable because the Haslams obviously don't want to get caught between a rock and a hard place where they have no negotiating power.
Sure.
Right now, they go to the city and say, guys, we're six years off. This is what we want to do. We can do it with you or we can do it on our own. So according to this article, the talks between Mayor Bibb's office and the Browns have stalled. They haven't gone anywhere. That doesn't mean that they're at an impasse completely. They just, maybe because time isn't exactly of the essence, they can put this off a little bit. What do you want the stadium to look like? Do you want it to have a roof, and where should it be? is
Yeah.
a suburban option.
Right. I mean, I don't know from an economic standpoint what makes sense. I will put that out there. I'm no economist. I do know that I think owners should pay for their own stadiums, but for the most part, that ship has sailed. However, I do think they need a new stadium.
Yeah.
And to me, it's 100% should have a roof. I understand there's a segment of the fan base that's like, we're tough and we can sit in the cold and the snow. But most people in reality don't want to sit in the cold and the snow.
No.
And
You want it retractable?
absolutely. I mean, that would be ideal.
Yeah.
So if you had retractable, you could still have grass.
Yep.
Right? You know.
Which the players do prefer over the turf.
Well,
Absolutely.
and the union prefers it too because we've seen these synthetic turf stadiums. There have been a rash of injuries, and they're still compiling data to see
Yeah.
if there's been more ACLs.
I mean, if you're
But
going
it
to
feels
spend
like
this
there
kind
have
of
been.
money anyway, and you're
Do it
going
right.
to do this, you got to do it right.
Yeah.
Don't. If you're spending whatever billion, I don't even know how much it costs.
Right.
An absurd amount of money.
It'll be over $1 billion.
Right. So don't cut it off at 80%. Go the full way.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that surprised me as I started
Yeah.
putting all the timing of these stories together,
Yeah.
the Haslams just spent to get 25% interest of an NBA team no one here cares about.
Right.
The amount of money that they could have built a brand new stadium with here. So if
Essentially.
they try to cry poor
Right.
and say, nah, the city needs to pay for it, guess what's going to happen?
That's right.
This city,
Anarchy.
as much as we love football, they're going to tell them to pound sand.
Right.
Because you just spent the amount of money you could have built a stadium for an ego purchase.
That's right. Which
So
makes
don't cry
yeah.
poor to us and ask
No,
us
no, no.
to now, tax incentivize your stadium. It won't work.
No. It seems important to me, though, that the stadium stays in Cleveland. As someone born and raised here, do you agree with that? Or
I
do you
absolutely think it belongs downtown. I
Yeah.
don't want to see it go to Independence. One of the things I've heard, where the Top Golf is on
Yep.
Independence?
Right. There's a lot of land there.
There's
Yeah.
a lot of land there. It's feasible. But
Sure.
the problem that you have when you do that, what the Cavs thought, and this was the trend at the time, you remember in Detroit, they put the Silver Dome way out in Pontiac.
Right.
There was a thought at the time that you could get that land cheaper and that fans will travel. But one thing that we learned about Cavs games, the Cavs play 80% of their season in the snow season. And Richfield is in an area, if you've driven there, it's hilly. And the travel can be treacherous.
Right.
And if I'm on the west side of Cleveland, I don't know that I want to travel all the way to Richfield to watch a Cavs game. And when they moved and relocated downtown, it's central for everyone. If you live west, you live east, you live south, you're all converging to the same spot. You're not
Right.
asking someone who lives on the east side to travel over an hour to get something that might be on the west side of town. So I do think it should be centrally located downtown. And I also think that this should be part of the renovation of downtown Cleveland.
100%.
Yeah.
And, I would like to see them buy Burke Lakefront Airport,
Knock it out.
Yeah.
put it there.
Yeah.
It's basically, I can tell you because and you work out there too, our gym right next door to this studio
Bo works out there too.
has all windows that faces Burke Lakefront
Yeah.
or Burke
Yep.
Lakefront Airport. I
Never.
could be in there 2 hours a day. I never see a plane come or go.
I know.
Ever.
You know what would be
and
great?
real quick before you do that,
Yeah.
Bo, not only do we work out there, Jay, Anthony, me, and Earl's offices are right there.
Nothing.
Yeah, you see the air
I'm
traffic.
there 8 hours a
Now,
day. Never.
when there's an NBA All-Star game, that place is
Yeah,
loaded
sure.
with rich people airplanes. When the World Series was here, loaded with private aircraft. I don't know what a city needs to have in terms of a secondary airport and a private airport. I'm sure they'd have to build another one somewhere else. Fine. Build it wherever. It doesn't have to be right
Yeah.
next to the Rock and Roll Hall of
couldn't it
Fame.
just be at our main airport, a separate part? They just
No,
gotta-
I think it needs to be a separate
okay.
facility.
But
this
Jay,
is
I would tell you to your point, and it would be amazing if they built the stadium there,
Yeah.
and then built up around it, turned where the old stadium is into restaurants, housing downtown.
Would love that idea.
We need a beautiful boardwalk, walking path,
Like
in
Chicago has.
We all understand
Mayor
Chicago.
Bibb has plans for that. Like he's
Well, there-
proposed plans for that.
there's-
So
there-
if they move the stadium, that could be where it goes.
Yeah, now none of that's been
No,
has
Right.
been
no, none of
confirmed.
it's all just a dream.
They're in the planning stages, which is better than where we were with the Jackson administration
Sure.
that looked at the land and said, yeah, it's pretty, isn't it?
Yeah.
And just never moved on it.
No.
Mayor Bibb is not going to do that. He is actively figuring out what to do with that.
If we could turn, now think about it. Obviously I haven't lived here my whole life, but downtown Cleveland, from when I moved here in 2011 till now, is much better. Much
Absolutely,
nicer.
yeah.
There's been tons of improvements. It's been going up.
4th Street.
But if you could turn the lakefront with a new stadium, I know this is probably, 10 years from now by the time it's all done?
It would be.
Roughly.
The stadium would need to be open and being used in 2028.
28,
Okay.
yeah.
So that's literally 6
okay.
football seasons
All right.
away.
Their lease at First Energy is up in 2027.
Right. So,
2028,
yeah.
they
Okay,
need
so-
it.
2028 season, they'll be
But
playing
between
in a new
that
stadium.
and doing all the other things, maybe, let's say 7 years from now that everything's done, if you could turn it into a mini Chicago lakefront,
That's what I've always
it
asked
would be
for.
magnificent.
Oh.
People would come here. I think they'd be more of a travel destination, especially in the winter. People won't go to Chicago in the winter either.
It is what it is, yeah.
In the
But
summer,
in the summer, you go to Chicago,
even in the
and there's
fall, the falls here are amazing.
tens of thousands of people walking along
It's
Lake
incredible.
Michigan. Now, one of the things that has always fascinated me is Cleveland does have lakeside residential, but it's not downtown. It's
in
Right.
Lakewood.
It's
and-
west of Cleveland in Lakewood.
Right,
You
which
go
is
to
beautiful over
Lakewood,
there.
and there's condos and apartments lining the lakeside.
On the west side, if you drive up Lake Road, Lakewood, Rocky River, Bay
Gorgeous.
Village,
Beautiful.
it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's probably our most valuable real estate.
It's amazing there, but we need it downtown. I mean, it would just be so incredible.
Yeah,
as
it would be nice.
As someone who moved here less than a year ago and had never been to Cleveland, one of the things that initially drew me to the city was it's built around sports. Progressive Field,
Yeah.
right in the heart of downtown.
Yes.
Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, right in the middle of downtown. I could look at Brown Stadium, First Energy Stadium, whatever, from my apartment, and I could see the Jumbotron. Like, it being there is, as a sports fan, such a cool aspect of the city that
It is.
It feels like, and I know this is only in '99, so it's not that old, but it feels like the city was built around sports. And if you move
Yeah.
Brown Stadium, First Energy, whatever you want to call it, out to Independence,
Yeah, that
out
would
to
suck.
Britain,
No, I don't-
it
that would
it
suck.
takes out what I think makes
Right.
Cleveland such a unique kind of place for
Right.
sports fans. And I agree.
Yeah.
If they built up the lakefront,
Oh
my
Because
God.
right now, let's face it, when there's not a sporting event downtown's dead at night.
Empty.
During the, dead. But if you built up the lakefront, more people living there,
Yeah.
nice new condos.
Well, one of the things that's helping is
Yeah.
the Sherwin-Williams building is in progress. They're building that.
gonna be huge,
It's
by
right
the
by
way.
Public Square.
Yeah.
That's going to bring more, and they're already building a lot more residential. New residential is flying up in Ohio City.
yep.
There's new residential planned. In fact, a residential building is being built right now, right off East 9th, that is going to bring probably another 3,000 people downtown.
Yep.
Right.
If the stadium project goes in at Burke, there will be many more residential buildings popping up there. What that will do is take our city from a ghost town after 5 o'clock and turn it into a hub.
That's right.
There will be people that need to go to grocery stores here, that are looking for restaurants here, retail. I've told the story many times about I was in town once on a assignment for ESPN, and I forgot to pack a belt. I had to go to the
Crocker Park?
No, I don't- Steelyard Commons. Yeah.
to find a belt.
That's
There was
crazy.
no men's clothing store located
It's
in
nuts.
downtown. We got to be the only metropolitan
My-
area in the country.
My buddy who works for the Heat needed new pants, and he's like, "Where can I walk to us?"
Yeah, there's
Walk to
nothing.
Crocker Park.
There's
Yeah,
nothing.
it's insane. It's insane. But I do think that sports can help revitalize what's going on here, because
Absolutely.
if that stadium goes where Burke is, and they can develop that whole piece of land, which is massive, with retail and with residential, now you have similar to what the Rams and the Chargers have in Los Angeles with SoFi.
And what is so important, and I've heard this from so many people that I've met here, is there are so many 20-year-olds that move to Chicago and New York,
Yeah.
and then they come back once they're married and having kids, but they're not living downtown because they have kids, so they want to go in the suburbs because of schools or whatever.
Right.
We got to get more of those 20-year-olds to stay and live in Cleveland.
I need friends.
Even if they eventually, move to the suburbs, which many people do in many parts of the country when you have kids. But at least if we have more 20-year-olds with better jobs staying downtown, it makes everything better.
Yeah, we get Anthony in from Parma.
So I
Hey,
have a
get
question
out of
for you
Parma.
guys.
Get downtown.
Yeah,
Anthony.
no, it's nice in Parma, kinda. But a lot of people have speculated the stadium could go on the other side of the 90 bridge, so it's closer to the other two stadiums. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah. I just think you're more landlocked there.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. You're gonna either way, you're gonna be buying up a lot of real estate,
Tons.
and that's not gonna be cheap.
No.
And they should do They need to do essentially what the Cubs owners did at Wrigley is they built the real estate. They bought everything around.
it. Yeah.
Everything, yeah.
And they put a hotel up.
It's Wrigleyville.
They put new restaurants. And I get it. Chicago's a bigger city with more money. But the Haslam's also wouldn't have to spend as much as the Cubs owners did because the real estate's not going to cost as much as it would in Chicago.
Yeah.
So they should be able to do a similar thing, and that would be great.
I found it fascinating that on the same day that this feasibility study is released, we also learned that they just dropped $875 million on a team that we don't care
and if they don't cheap out on any of the stadium or any of that, then fine, do whatever you want. Listen, but don't let that affect this.
Yeah, I don't want to hear them say, well, we're going to need, we'll fund 25% of it. The city needs to fund the other 75. No,
you just spent $800 million.
$875 on another Maserati.
Right.
Sell the Maserati and build a stadium for this team.
Right.
We talked about the retractable roof dome real quick. You said retractable roof. Jay, where do you fall on that? Retractable roof dome?
Absolutely retractable.
So I was just curious.
Do any of the recent stadiums have just roofs with no I mean, I feel like
Not that I know of, no.
I feel like all the new stadiums
I think they all are retractable.
It's interesting. So I did some research this morning just because I was curious. Since 2000, there have been 23 Super Bowl winners. How many played outdoor and how many played in a dome/retractable
Their
roof?
regular season?
Yeah, regular season.
Of the 23, well, the Patriots won a lot of those.
Right, so they're outdoor.
The Buccaneers won 2 of those.
The Chiefs won 2. They're outdoors.
The Chiefs won 2. I bet very rarely does a team that plays in a dome win a Super Bowl.
20 of the 23 Super Bowl winners since 2000 have been naturally outdoor teams.
How
that
many-
means absolutely nothing. But I'm just saying
a
it was interesting.
coincidence.
No, I know, but I think it is.
Well, there could be a tie. Follow me.
And I don't know what it is. But
one of the theories of the synthetic turf fields is that you're more injury prone on them. The players do not love playing on this.
Right.
That is true.
And the science of it is those fibers are sewn into a rubber base. A grassroot field, those grass roots can go 3-4 inches deep. And so it just stands to reason that on a grass field, if you assert enough force, you'll create a divot. But because this surface doesn't divot, it gives. And when it gives, it puts a lot of pressure on all of the hinge points on the leg.
But with a retractable roof, there's no reason you couldn't have a grass field.
No.
It's just cheaper to have a.
You're
that's
right,
what teams
but
do it.
if the outdoor stadiums are winning the Super Bowls, the teams that play in outdoor stadiums are winning the Super Bowls, maybe they're having to deal less with season-ending injuries to key players.
What percentage of the teams have outdoor stadiums?
I'm not sure.
Because you said 20 of 33 were outdoor. That's not that high.
No,
a
20
percentage.
of 23.
20 of 23.
20 of 20.
The only 3 teams since 2000 that have been dome teams were the Colts in 2006, the Saints in 2009, and the Rams 2 seasons ago. And they just moved to a dome stadium.
Yeah.
Everyone else since 2000.
I mean, how many dome stadiums are there?
Detroit.
I don't know.
8,
well,
maybe?
Houston. I mean, I don't know off the
bring
top of my
Jason
head.
in.
But I'm just saying,
Yeah.
it was interesting. I didn't think it would be that much.
No,
And then to see 20 of 23.
Yeah.
Interesting. Do you have a read to do first?
Yep.
Yeah, so I went out and I asked everybody what their thoughts were about getting a roof on the new stadium. And whenever we ask the internet, it's brought to you by PCC Airfoils. Looking for a job with career advancement and great benefits? PCC Airfoils is a leading manufacturer in Northeast Ohio. And all locations of PCC Airfoils in Eastlake, Menor, Wickliffe, and Minerva are hiring for positions starting at $18 and up. Plus, get a full benefit package, paid time off, and a signing bonus. Apply online at precast.com/careers to learn more. So went and did a nice little YouTube poll with our amazing chat, and 84% of them, out of 100 to 200 votes, want a roof on that stadium.
Yeah.
I think most people
have
do.
come around.
Yeah.
I feel like when we would talk about this, because we've been talking about this in Cleveland forever. And I feel like when we used to talk about this on the radio 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, it would be more 50-50 or even heavier towards outdoor. And I feel like as the years have gone by and we've seen these beautiful new stadiums that look amazing, I think more and more people are like, well, I want to have one of those in
Listen,
Cleveland.
a retractable roof solves both issues at once. If you can get natural grass and a retractable roof,
Yeah.
if they're willing to spend money on it,
Yeah.
it solves both
That's what
issues.
they should do. I hope they
I
go
really hope
natural.
that's
Hope
what
they
it's
do
really
it.
goes.
If it means the Haslams need to sell the Bucks,
So be it.
Yeah.
don't increase my taxes.
Yeah.
to build a house for a billionaire that owns another team in Milwaukee.
That's right.
I'm sorry.
And by the way, if Haslam turned around and sold his share in 5 years, it'd probably be worth even more.
It'd be worth even more.
Maybe that's why he did it. Maybe he did it for a short play to raise money to build a stadium.
Maybe.
That wouldn't be a bad idea.
No.
It's a great buying.
It's a great
into a sports
investment.
team to this point has always been a great investment.
Isn't
Look
it?
at how they've appreciated.
Before we bring in Jason,
But
last thing
eventually,
real quick.
it's going to hit a ceiling.
At some point.
Until
It has
that
to,
point, it is absolute horse crap that the richest people in America can just buy a sports team and make a gajillion dollars off it.
Jimmy Haslam's made, 3 times his money in the value of the Browns?
Easily.
Already.
He's
With
done
the
nothing
Dolphins,
to make it
nothing.
better.
Same with the Dolans and the Guardians.
done nothing.
But at least they've done things to make it better. The Browns have done nothing.
But
you're right.
every sports franchise is on the up and up as far as their overall evaluation. And just
Well, I did read a piece in Sports Business a while ago. It's been a number of years where they were speculating like where all this ends, and they speculated that it won't be long before a franchise is sold for $5 billion. Now, to date, the Broncos have the record at $4.5 billion.
yeah, 4.5.
The Cowboys everybody's valuation. When the Broncos were sold for 4.5, everybody's valuation skyrocketed.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's a comp now.
Right.
So the Cowboys are worth what now? $7 billion?
The Yankees.
Silly.
And the Yankees, I'm sure,
Yeah.
are worth more than that. But at
Crazy.
some point,
Yeah.
this article theorized that it's going to hit a cap.
A cap.
Where they realize that, okay, they've grown exponentially, but it can't continue to
Eventually
go
it's
on
gonna stop,
forever.
yeah.
Do you know who's not worth $7 billion?
Well, he's worth just under that.
Jason Lloyd.
Yeah, he's 6.4
6.9.
billion. Yeah. There he is. Hey, have you seen Jimmy walking around
only.
the draft yet? If you do, get a video of him.
So we can replace the one that we have.
Exactly.
Yeah, right, with the toilet paper.
I have not seen any. There it is. There it is. The one video we have last year from the owners' meetings.
Yeah, that's it.
I think that was the owners' meetings in
It
Florida.
was, yeah.
So I have not seen anyone from the Browns yet. Andrew's supposed to talk at 1 o'clock. So when we're done here, I'm going to head down there. I am right now at the hub of the combine. I told Anthony I wanted to have some fun with it and do it here. I'm at a Starbucks, and this is the place to be at the combine. Like, this is where everybody hangs out. And yesterday, a reporter had Ron Rivera over there for a half hour in the corner. And Sean Payton was up here a few minutes ago. I was chatting with him real quick. And Kwesi walked through, the GM from Minnesota who came from Cleveland. And this is the spot. So if you're ever in Indy during the NFL Combine, you want to see all the NFL people, just come to the Starbucks outside the JW Marriott, between the JW Marriott and the Convention Center. And this is where everybody hangs out. So I thought it'd be a little bit fun to do the hit from here today rather than a stuffy workroom or Radio Row or something.
Yeah, I mean, hell, Jerry Jones could walk in the back of your live shot at any second.
Right. Or
I could. Yeah.
Jason, we were just talking about
Actually, Dallas gets here today. Dallas comes later tonight.
okay.
But you're right. Somebody could come.
We were just talking about, potentially a new stadium downtown or whatever. We were talking roof, retractable. Your best bet, whenever this happens, let's say 6 years from now, 5 years from now, whatever it is, do the Browns have a new stadium? Does it have at least a retractable roof? Is it downtown? What's your best guess right now?
Ideally, I think they should go to Independence, go to 480 and 77 by Topgolf, and build a palace surrounded by mixed-use development, retail shops, apartments, and he can own the whole thing.
But that
and make a
sucks for
fortune.
downtown, Jason. We don't want that.
That also
Why?
sucks for the people living in Parma. There's not enough roads for traffic.
Well, it sucks for people
But
downtown
it's more
because
centrally located.
well, it
Right.
is as suburbs go. It is. I think you're better off going there than putting it somewhere on the far west or far east side. So that is centrally located. But we were talking about the activity and the life that the stadiums currently bring to downtown Cleveland. And the thought would be this would not just be in use 10 to 12 days a year. You would have multiple events every month at this stadium. You could do tractor pulls. You could do all kinds of things inside this domed stadium to generate more revenue. And also at the same time, let that be the centerpiece to the downtown renovation, which is coming most likely in the Burke Lakefront area and the area where we're located here on Lakeside Avenue. Do you get a sense that the Haslams are leaning more towards taking it out of the city? And could that just be a negotiating chip with the city, who would obviously love to keep it here?
Yeah, everything's a negotiating tactic. So I think that they have discussed my idea. I was talking to someone actually just yesterday about this. And I think that has come up in discussions about going out there by Top Golf where there's a ton of land and doing it. That's what New England did in Foxborough. That's the model for the whole thing. The Uber for
LA
Foxborough
just did
Stadium
that with
drops
SoFi.
Yeah, it's still to come. Like the stadium's there, but there's not really a lot around it yet. In Inglewood, it's still pretty rough, but that's the plan, is to build up that whole area around it.
Right.
But it's funny because the Uber drop-off in Foxborough for the stadium is in front of like Kruger's Bagels. Like that's where the Uber drops you off. It's this whole strip mall right in front of it. I think the model, if you want to talk stadiums, the model to follow, in my opinion, is Minnesota. The stadium is beautiful. It's right there in line. We were there last year, obviously, for the Vikings game, Vikings-Browns. It's right in line with SoFi. I haven't seen the Vegas Stadium yet, but I've been to SoFi and I've been to US Bank in Minneapolis. And the way that Minneapolis built the retractable roof, the way that they funded it, I think we talked about this on the show before. They don't have legalized gambling in Minnesota, but the state got creative, and you can buy pull tabs, electronic pull tabs, through charities, and they tax those. And they were so successful that they're ready to pay off the public portion like 10 years early. And the Haslams have more money than the Vikings do, than Vikings ownership and the Wolf family. So, like, if I'm the Haslams and, we're going to be cutthroat business people, I'm holding up the Buffalo deal. And the amount of public funds that Buffalo got is staggering.
Jason.
And the trend had become, real quick, the trend had become, if you want it, you build it yourself. So the Wolves had to put up like half the money for Minnesota, which I think, again, is the good model to use here because they can afford it. Cranky built the whole thing himself in L.A. Like, there was no public money that went into that. The Buffalo deal blew that out of the water. They got so much money from the public. I'm really curious to see now where this goes next and how this shakes out. But I think you have to – I don't think you can renovate that thing. That thing's a piece of crap on the lake. And I've talked to people who have done stadiums, who have built these things, who said you can't salvage it. Like, it's just not salvageable. You can't put a roof on it. You just knock it down and do it again. I would not put it there. I think it's a terrible location. I would move it to the suburbs if I'm the Haslams. Put up half the money and get publicly funded for the other half. Try and hire the right lobbyists. Change state laws to get some of this new gambling revenue that's coming in to help go towards stadium costs and stadium builds. And go build a palace out there and just rake in the cash.
Yeah, the idea that you could ever put a roof on that stadium and feel safe in an area where we could get a foot of snow in one day, that's like the idea of I buy a coupe and I decide I'm going to arc weld the top off, and then I'm going to have a convertible, and it'll be great, and there's going to be no problems with it. Like, you're not going to retrofit an existing stadium and suddenly put a dome on top of it. That thought is nuts. But we were talking here, and Bull just made a fascinating point. I want your thought on this. I find the timing of the release of this feasibility news very interesting to me because it comes on the heels of the Haslam family writing an $875 million check to become minority owners in a team in a different league that's not anywhere near Cleveland. I don't want to hear them cry poor. We need public funding to build this stadium. No, you don't. You just wrote a check for another toy that would have more than covered the expense of a new stadium. Don't raise my taxes. And I know the Buffalo deal is different, but in Buffalo, I think that's a lot different, Jason. It's their only, they have a hockey team, but they don't have basketball and they don't have baseball.
Yeah.
And I would argue that the Bills probably mean more to the people of Buffalo than even the Browns mean to Cleveland. Because we have other teams. We lost our team. We survived. Buffalo is built around the Bills. So it makes sense they would get more public funding. I'm just not sure that the city of Cleveland and the taxpayers in this area are going to be okay with helping billionaires build a stadium when they just spent $875 million.
And to that point, the Guardians just went through this, and it was a non-starter. Like, it was never even broached about building a new stadium, which, honestly, Progressive Field is outdated. Now they're doing the best they can. It's a beautiful facility, and they've done a fabulous job of taking care of it, maintaining it, but it's outdated. It's 30 years old. But the idea, because they knew Cleveland just didn't have the money for it. and it was never going to happen to where they were going to get a new stadium, so they're going to make do with what they have. Obviously, ownership situation structure is a lot different with Dolan's compared to the Haslams as well, and that's why I go back to I don't think that Jimmy's going to build the whole thing himself, even though that's exactly what they did in LA. But I think he could put up half of it. I don't think that's being unreasonable. If it's $1 billion, you can put up half of it, and then you figure out the rest on the funding, because there are going to be public dollars involved. I don't disagree with you. You're that rich, go build it yourself. You just wrote a check to the Bucks. I agree, but that's just not reality.
Bull, tell him your low-key brilliant idea.
I said, Jason, maybe he, the value of these franchises just keeps skyrocketing. Maybe he put in that $875 million in Milwaukee because 5 years from now it's worth $1.3 billion, and now he just made $500 million that he can use towards the stadium.
No, that's not going to happen. They're not.
No, flipping it.
He's not worried. He's not worried about raising money so that he can ease the burden on the taxpayers of Cleveland.
Well, then
he's
he
worried
should
about
pay for the whole thing himself, Jason, if he's not
family.
worried about the money.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree.
And here's the other thing: 5 years from now, if Antetokounmpo isn't playing in Milwaukee, the value of that franchise is likely in the tank.
That's true.
So, well, I mean, yes and no. The Bucks are. It's still. You guys just said it. The valuations on these things go up and up and up. Yeah, and the Bucks situation is really interesting. I heard you guys talking about it. You're exactly right. Like, so normal people invest in real estate, right? Billionaires invest in pro sports teams because they can, and the valuations just go higher and higher and higher. The Milwaukee situation is interesting. Basically, you show the clip of Jimmy at the owners' meetings last year. That's where, we sat down with them and had a conversation, and that's where I asked them, like, did Pittsburgh prepare you for, and I'm tying this all back to Milwaukee, did Pittsburgh prepare you for Cleveland, owning the Steelers, being minority owners of the Steelers? And Jimmy laughed and said, no. Like, when we walked in, they had Kevin Colbert, Mike Tomlin, and Ben Roethlisberger at the three most important positions, and we thought this was easy. Well, that's what they just did in Milwaukee. They just walked into a championship team in Milwaukee that had stability at GM, head coach, and a superstar in Giannis. They've already won a championship. Yep. That, to me, is Jimmy saying, we can't build a winner, so we're going to go buy into a winner. They've had so much trouble getting it right. It's just like they did with the quarterback with Deshaun. We can't find a quarterback, so we're just going to put outrageous numbers of zeros on the check until he says yes. And it was, and that's how they got Deshaun. And now, we've struggled to build a winner. And I'll give Jimmy credit. Like, he desperately wants to win. He will spend whatever it takes to win. And we've seen that. And that really, I think, is why he's writing the check now to go to the Bucks and maybe then get another championship. And the interesting part from Milwaukee's side is Mark Lazary, the minority owner who's selling his shares to Jimmy. Obviously, you got money if you're owning a team, but Lazary is not wealthy enough to compete with where this thing is headed in the NBA and where the Bucks luxury tax is headed. They're going to have monster luxury tax bills coming up trying to keep this thing together with Giannis, Chris Middleton, Brook Lopez. So they needed to raise capital in a hurry. And this is the way to do it. So Lazary sells his shares. He cashes out, makes a ton of money. Jimmy comes in. They basically want Jimmy for his checkbook. So Jimmy's going to write the checks. And that way they'll be able to keep Giannis and Middleton and Brook Lopez together. And I was talking to somebody yesterday, and it said, like, well, Jimmy's just toxicity and incompetence in Cleveland scare off Giannis. And the answer was basically not right away, but losing Middleton or Lopez in the short term would. So they've got, I think, 2 years. I think it's 2 years with Giannis before a player option comes up, and there's going to be decisions, and you're going to start hearing about could Giannis leave and all that. And the best way to keep him is to keep the talent around him, and that's why Jimmy and Milwaukee makes sense. Because I asked somebody yesterday, why not go buy the Suns? Like, the Suns are available. Just go buy Phoenix, and you're outright owners. And basically what I was told was it was too far. And I said, geographically or financially? And the response was both.
Yeah.
So I do think that they like the fact that it's Milwaukee, Cleveland, and Columbus. They've got their teams that they own. Fairly short plane right away. And Phoenix was a little bit too far geographically, and the price tag was a little bit higher than what they were willing to go.
If you're a Cavs fan, like, you got to be pissed about that, though. Because Jimmy going to Milwaukee helps one of your rivals stay better.
Yeah.
100%.
From a PR standpoint, it's not great for
I hadn't really thought about it that way.
No, I thought about it immediately.
Well, I didn't, because I didn't
buy a Western Conference team.
Well, but no, I didn't think about it because Lazary, I didn't know Lazary was so far behind Jimmy. I just assumed they would keep Giannis anyway. But if the reason they brought in Jimmy was specifically to try to keep Giannis there, that hurts Cleveland.
Well, somebody would have done it. If not Jimmy, somebody would have done it.
Right, but let it be someone else and not Jimmy.
Here's what I envisioned immediately, Jason. It's not outside the realm of reasonability here. A Milwaukee Cavs Eastern Conference final. Maybe not this year, maybe next year. That's going to be an awkward spot for Jimmy Haslam to walk in.
I don't think he cares. He wants to win.
He obviously doesn't. Or he wouldn't
Browns
have done
fans
He
care.
just wants to win.
Yeah, Browns fans care.
Sure. Yeah.
But he's already proven that.
Do they really? Because
No, we'll keep coming back.
I mean,
So I think what he's assessed the market here. He has assessed the market. You know what he's decided? He could basically put horse manure on the field, and we're all going to show up, and we're all going to spend our money.
They just raised ticket prices.
They have.
Another crap year, and they just raised ticket prices again.
I did not see that Ben Axelrod tweet, but that's exactly what I thought right away.
Right.
It's like it's going to be uncomfortable for them.
The Browns have raised ticket prices. I know they don't. Everybody's like, well, their ticket prices are on the lower end. Well, the cost of living in Cleveland is on the lower end, just in general. But they've raised ticket prices a number of times over the last few years, even though the team has mostly sucked.
Guess what?
So
it's our fault.
We keep coming back.
Because
We've never reached the point where we said
exactly it.
It's the cost of poker is too high.
Yeah.
We know what he puts on the field, and we keep spending whatever he asks us to come watch it.
Right.
So I don't know what the breaking point is. At some point, there will be empty seats there again, and that's when they'll have to have a come to Jesus and figure out how they fix it.
Jason, you are in Indy for the Combine. Barry's speaking later today. Do you expect him to say anything earth-shattering or groundbreaking? and I only say that because this is one of the few times where everyone knows he's about to talk. And, hey, if you want your questions answered, this is where you fire him off.
No, he's not going to say anything. We know he's not. He's not going to address the JJ3 stuff. Like, he's not going to say anything. So it's kind of it's performance theater, really, when you get in these situations and everybody has questions they want to ask. And that's why I told you the other day, Jay, when we were talking about the Deshaun podcast, and I said, man, I don't really care what he says. Because, and it ended up being a little bit more interesting than I thought that it would be. But I just don't I've been doing this too long. I don't put a lot of stock into what people say when the recorders are rolling. I put stock in what they say when we shut them off. So that's just kind of where I stand on it.
So do you think you'll be able to get anything from Barry when the recorder's off?
I don't know. Can't say that. Maybe. We'll see.
We'll see after a cocktail or two.
I'll ask you to get off
St.
I'll
Elmo's.
text
Yeah, I'm out tomorrow night. No, I just came we had meetings all day yesterday for the Athletic. We have we have probably 100 people here from the Athletic.
Okay.
And it's obviously just a quick little drive from Cleveland. So I came late Sunday night. We were in meetings all day yesterday. We'll get AB today here in about an hour. Kevin talks tomorrow, and then I'm out tomorrow night. So Steve Becker, I will be on the show Thursday. It was questionable whether or not I was going to be back in time. I will be back on the show. I'll be back Thursday. I'll be back late Wednesday night, so I'll be on the show Thursday.
Jason, we talk about
breaking news. Jason's back.
Yeah,
sorry.
we talk about split allegiance when it comes to Jimmy Haslam. We also have another split allegiance situation. Zach Jackson writes for you guys. He's also a pitcher for the Oakland A's this late in his career. How did that? Are you guys aggravated at the Athletic about that?
What? I don't know. I don't even know what you're talking about.
There's a pitcher on the A's named Zach Jackson. There's a relief pitcher, Zach Jackson, on the A's.
I can promise you it's not our Zach Jackson. If he threw one pitch, his shoulder would fall off, and you'd have to run after it and catch it and try and reattach it. As would mine. So
hey, let's get your
thoughts. We're not all built like Jay Crawford. We can't all pitch into our 40s.
Yeah, right.
And beyond.
Before we let you go,
he'll be pitching into his 60s.
I will. Before we let you go, your thoughts on the JJ3 news that his release is imminent, and it seems more likely as you start connecting these dots that Jesse Bates is on his way, but it could be someone else. What do you make of all of that?
Not terribly surprised about John Johnson. We've talked about it on the show. At first I was. When it first started to surface, I thought it was only because all of his money is guaranteed. But, by dating it post-June 1, they save about $9-10 million on the cap. So he did not live up to expectations. He did not have a great 2 years here. You can argue that they didn't put him in the best position to succeed. They didn't take advantage of his strengths. Regardless, it wasn't good. And actually, as we're talking about Zach made the point this morning, this is 2 years in a row now that they had to cut ties with their top free agent signing, which they did last year with Austin Hooper and now with JJ3 in consecutive years. And I think it also goes to show you that free agency is a crapshoot, right? Like you're not supposed to fill long-term holes. It's stopgap, short-term solutions in free agency, because the very best teams don't give them away. They don't let them loose. They do whatever it takes to keep them. So if it is Jesse Bates, it'll probably be at a higher number than what John's even getting or is supposed to get for next year. I'm not sure it's a slam dunk that it's Bates. I think there's probably going to be a lot of interest in him. But I can see why the Browns are targeting him. He's had a couple of good years, and we'll see. So I'm not terribly surprised at this point.
Jason, we saw a tweet from Cleve TA earlier about the post-June 1 cut, and they can't use that money until later. I know you're not a cap expert by trade, capologist, but what does it mean that they can't use that cap space until after June 1st? Does that matter whatsoever in the grand scheme of things here?
I don't think so. I think it just, you can come to terms. It's sort of like the NBA. You come to terms with guys, but they don't actually sign the contract until later. I think that's really all it is. I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Jason, you did say, I get what you're saying. A lot of cases, free agents, it's short-term contracts. But for the most part, Barry's done an awful job with free agents. Because I'm just thinking about it now. Look at the Bengals defense. Trey Hendrickson, free agent, great signing. DJ Reader, free agent, great signing. Cheetah Awuzie, free agent, great signing. Mike Hilton, free agent, great signing. Von Bell, free agent, great. That's 5 starters on their defense that were all home runs. And the Bengals have had their time when they've screwed up a lot. But right now, who's Barry added in free agent? You traded for Cooper.
Traded for Watson.
Right.
You traded for Watson.
Postage was a home run signing.
Postage was a great pickup.
I feel like he's had a couple, but I don't have the list in front of me.
How was Walker acquired?
Free agency.
That was a free
agent.
agent.
Free agent. And we don't know. He got hurt, but
he's been okay.
Yeah.
I went through him this morning. It's not a great track record, put it that way. It's not great.
Well, the draft isn't either.
No, I agree. But I would argue, Bull, that the Bengals are the exception on that, and that's not normal. They've done a fabulous job.
That's true.
Full credit to them for doing that. But and maybe you can, maybe I'm wrong, but I think you'd be hard pressed to go through the league and find 4 or 5 other teams that have had that much success targeting free agents and keeping them and making them. I think Zach said it best this morning, where free agency for most teams is like a year or 2 stopgap until you have a draft pick who can solidify that spot. So take a defensive tackle in free agency if you need to, and then you draft a defensive tackle who can fill that spot in 2025.
Yeah,
I think that's the ideal way to approach it, but that doesn't mean that's how it always works.
Generally, you're right. That's true.
Well, the other thing we talked about too, Jay, is the fact that in Cincinnati, you've got a defensive coordinator who is going to be a head coach soon. He didn't get the job with the Cardinals, but he's certainly going to be a head coach soon. And coaching matters. We saw Hill and Johnson come from the Rams, and we thought we were getting this great tandem. And Hill was bad. Yeah. He went back to the Rams and came back to his previous heights with the Rams. So maybe it's just a fact that Joe Woods wasn't really good at putting players. We know this is the case with Johnson. Coaching is about finding what the players' strengths are and then putting them in positions to maximize those strengths. Kansas City starting rookies all over the field. Well, they can't be hitting on all of these draft picks and all of these rookies. A lot of this is coaching, and my hope is, I've been drinking some Kool-Aid this morning, my hope is Schwartz is going to come in. He's got a track record of being that guy, that he figures out what talent he has, figures out what their strengths are, and collectively and individually coaches this group up to be much better.
Ideally, yeah. That's why he's here. And you're right, coaching matters and scheme matters, and what you're asking these guys to do. And I just don't know. John had a lot of coverage busts, and how many times did we point out where it just looked like a lack of effort? And that's not scheme, that's effort. But true. There was a lot of times where he was the one looking around. I think John was unhappy here. He's never said that in so many words, but I just think he was really frustrated by some of what was being asked of them defensively, some of the positions that he was put in, the situations he was put in. And frankly, I don't think he's very sad today to be moving on to another team.
Mike's losing his mind. What's going on, Mike?
Jason, over your right shoulder, is that not Director Steve's twin behind you?
Oh, I thought that earlier, too.
It looks just like Director Steve behind you. Oh, my goodness. I don't know who that is, but that's Director Steve's twin.
Yeah, it looks like Director Steve.
This is the guy on the phone?
Yes.
Ask him if he plays the drums.
That's really funny.
It does. I thought the same thing.
There was an NFL.
Wow.
I was hoping we could catch an NFL coach or GM or something in the background.
Yeah, I've been watching for somebody famous to walk by.
Yeah, I haven't seen anybody either.
It's kind of a lull right now. There was hot early on, typically 8, 9 a.m. This place is packed. And then there was 10 a.m. sessions downstairs, and there's a little bit of a break now till like 11:30. It picks back up, I think. It's noon. Yeah, I'm a little surprised. I thought maybe we could catch somebody here.
C.J. Stroud says he's going to throw. Is you surprised by that?
Yeah, a little bit. I didn't know that.
They're all throwing
honestly, I haven't really paid attention much to the combine.
Yeah, Bryce Young
That's interesting.
is not
Yeah,
because
most guys don't.
Yeah, that's why I was surprised.
Yeah, I don't blame him.
I was surprised he was going to throw. I mean, I like the fact that I hate when guys say, I'm not going to run, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that. If you're confident in your abilities and you think you can match what you put on tape,
100% agree.
Go out there and do it. And to me, that's a personality check for you. I like this guy. He's confident. Yeah. It would make me like him even more. Jason Lloyd, live from the NFL Combine in Indianapolis. Go get a venti chai for me.
Yeah.
Steve.
Skim milk and there you go.
Enjoy the exciting nightlife in Indy.
St. Elmo's or Harry's? Which one?
St. Elmo's, 100%.
Well, Harry and Izzy's last night and tonight. We got a big. Actually, all the Browns beat is going out tonight to Harry and Izzy's.
Who's the biggest party on the Browns beat?
I actually none. Actually, it's kind of low
Have you met these people?
No, I have never been to a press conference for the Browns, so they won't even let us use the
Not
sound.
a bunch of party animals.
I can see Zach and Daryl throwing them back. Mary Kay,
it might be Jason
Cosmo.
Lloyd.
Well, it's definitely Jason.
Actually, Zach was just here. I'm skipping over that comment. Zach was just here right before we went on, and Zach cashed in early last night. He said, "I got one night in me, and I got to use it wisely." So he went to bed early last night.
Yeah. Is that because he's older now and he's just a little more judicious with picking his spots?
Yeah.
I've been there.
I can't do back-to-backs anymore. Can't do back-to-backs.
Got
to take a load maintenance day.
It's all about load management.
That's
right. Hey, one thing, totally off target. What do you make of LeBron that he could miss a couple of weeks?
I mean, he's reached that age. I'm surprised that we haven't seen this yet with him. He's of the age where injuries, and that was really the thing when he was ending his time in Cleveland, was, hey, listen, do the Cavs really want to commit the amount of money that it would take to keep him to a guy that is at this stage in his career and is this old? And we saw it with the groin that took him out for a few weeks in LA, and now with the foot that's going to keep him sidelined. It's probably the new reality for him, and I'm sure he's not handling it well. He likes to get out there and play, and it'll still drive him crazy. But I think that this is just the reality of where he's at in his career. He can still play at an incredibly high level, but injuries are going to be a thing.
It proves he's not a robot, number one, and it's unfortunate for him because they're 3.5 games from the 4 spot in the West. But if they lose him for a couple of weeks, I think they can kiss any hopes of the playoffs goodbye. It's going to be a tough run for sure.
I really like what we talked about it briefly. I really like what they did at the deadline. I thought they fixed a lot of their issues, and they've played really well since then.
They have.
So it's kind of unfortunate for them.
Yeah, bad timing. All right, Jason, have fun, and we'll see you Thursday.
Later, Jason.
All right, see you guys. Bye.
Those events are always fun because it's a league-wide event. It's like the Super Bowl in a little and like the draft.
SEC
It's a couple times a year. Yeah, it's a couple times a year where everybody that covers the league is in one place, and the story. The best stuff that happens at the Combine and at the Super Bowl and at the draft, we can't put on TV.
Right, sure.
It's after hours.
SEC was karaoke night on Wednesday night for SEC Media Week.
You guys live it up down there in the South.
There's not a lot to do in Birmingham, Alabama. So
no, there's not. I've covered that a couple of times, and it is bad. It is really bad. All right, you have a read to do?
Yeah, so I'm going to set this up a little bit here with this tag board. If you want to take this tag board full here, Steve. Donovan Mitchell scored 71, and now Damian Lillard scored 71. And if you could bet that Donovan Mitchell will score 72 this season, you might want to do it with BetJack. The time is now, Ohio sports fan. Sports betting is live. Download the BetJack app today, so you'll be ready to go with all the action. Bet Jack, Ohio Sportsbook.
They probably have a line on that. I'm taking the under. He's not doing it.
Guys, I don't really give a rat's ass if Donovan Mitchell scores 72 or not. I want the Cavs to win in the playoffs. I mean, I don't care.
Either.
I don't care. I'm sick of all these scoring. It's not a record.
No,
like, what
it's
is
a Cavs record.
Yeah, but
that's it. I mean, it's not an NBA record, but scoring this year is way up. We've seen, score. There was a regular season game right after the All-Star game. It happened.
Kings, Clippers that scored
double overtime.
176, 175.
Second highest scoring game in
ever.
NBA history.
351 total points.
Defense is now optional. I think everybody has realized that that's where the effort is. If everybody's talking load management, stars are sitting. Teams also aren't playing defense anymore.
Yeah.
Defense in the regular season is a myth now. And even the Cavs, who last year early played it, this year early played it, they gave up 136 the other night. 145, I think.
Is there ever? I mean, there was always a big difference. I think more than any other sport between regular season and postseason in basketball.
It's now even more exacerbated.
It is a bigger chasm now.
And every year it's getting bigger.
It is. I studied the line scores of these two, and I hate to give my answer, but I'm more impressed. The question is which one's more impressive. I think Lillard 71 was more impressive. Does anybody want to disagree with that?
Why is that?
Okay, I'll throw the numbers out there. He just put some of them up. So he did his in regulation, first of all.
Yep. He played 10, so I'm with you.
He only played 39 minutes.
I'll make the case for Mitchell if we have to.
How many minutes did Mitchell play?
50.
Oh, that's a big
He did it in 11 or 10 and a half fewer minutes.
He also took 6 more shots, Mitchell. Now, the one thing that is absolutely more impressive about Mitchell's point total and game was the fact that he had 11 assists.
And 8 rebounds.
So he actually contributed to 98 points, was it?
98 points.
98 of their 145.
I'll argue Mitchell just for the sake of arguing Mitchell here. Lillard did it against the Houston Rockets team that is tanking.
That's true.
Plays absolutely. You talk about teams not playing defense in general. The Houston Rockets are allergic to defense. Yeah. I mean, they don't even attempt to put out an effort.
And Mitchell shot it better. Better field goal percentage.
A tiny bit. True shooting percentage was different. He made 20 free throws. Lillard made 14.
The other thing about Lillard's was he almost tied Klay Thompson's record for the most three-pointers in the game.
He made 13 threes in the game.
He had 13 three-pointers. That's
pretty crazy.
But
the record's 14.
The difference in
But the Bulls aren't a juggernaut either.
No, but the game went to overtime. It was much closer. Lillard did it in a non-competitive atmosphere, which turned into a track meet and a shootout. Yeah. But at the end of the day, when we are comparing side by side, Lillard scored 71 points in 39 minutes. It took Mitchell 49-48, I think was the final number.
Almost
49
50 minutes.
Almost 50 minutes to score 71.
I got to tell you, I was saying this to you guys as we were driving in. I was like, I didn't even know about this until last night. And it really feels like nothing. I know it's an accomplishment. I don't really care.
Yeah.
I got an alert
don't care.
on my phone. I didn't even read the story. I just got the alert, and I'm like, oh, wow. So we've got a second 70. What's fascinating is, in the history of the NBA before this year, there were 6 players that had reached 70 points in a game. Yeah. In 2 months, we've seen it twice. It drives home nobody's playing defense.
Would you be surprised if we start seeing 2 or 3 a year now?
No, I wouldn't.
Just because
I
nobody's playing defense.
I think 70 is the new 60 in terms of individual point totals.
I also think guys are more going for it than they did in the past. Things like that.
It's more of a me league than a team league, yes, for sure.
Especially
the other thing,
in the
too, that we talked about this morning. I read this early this morning, and I was like, wow. Last night was the first night of the NBA season where the leading scorer for the entire league didn't have 30 points. 29 was the single individual player high last night. Guys, so I think 30 is the new 20. I think 40 is the new 30.
Yes.
Now, anything over 50, I don't care when you're doing it, anything over 50 is eye-popping and very impressive. I don't know that we're going to have an 80-point game again. What did Kobe have, 81?
81.
I don't think we'll see that again, but I wouldn't be
blown
away by it.
I disagree with both of what you said, Jay. I don't think that's going to become too common because we saw it twice this year in 2 months. It took Mitchell 50 minutes, which is longer than a regulation game. So it took an extraordinary circumstance for Mitchell to reach that number. Lillard made 13 threes. He was as hot as humanly possible to reach that. And guess what? The ultimate kudos to Lillard. I'm not taking anything away. That to me is otherworldly. But when you look at how many players have ever reached that number,
right?
It is 8 players.
I know.
That's it. Michael Jordan never did it.
I get it, but the game, we just said the game is going to less and less defense in the regular season. Don't you think that trend's going to continue?
And guys are more about accumulating individual stats than ever before.
But at some point, and just like with the evaluation of the teams and at some point we're going to reach, this stat's absurd, by the way. I found this earlier. Career 60-point games. Lillard has 5, which is more than Jordan, and then Wilt has 61, which goes back to show when we were comparing what's more impressive, Wilt's 100-point game or Mitchell generating 98.
More than 3 times the rest of the league put together.
I know.
And that's why when you talk about like individual dominance in the sport, like I know that Bill Russell gets all the attention, but Wilt's 100 and that stat right there.
Well, Bill won, though. That's why, you know.
We think of, Bill did, but from an individual dominance in a sport.
No one was more dominant than
Serena
Will.
Williams, dominated female tennis.
Yeah.
Like I don't think I've ever seen an athlete dominate their sport. But I think, who?
Katie Ledecky.
Yeah, she was dominant, too. But, it's swimming. It's an Olympics every 4 years.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But I just look at what Wilt did. A fun fact about Wilt. Wilt was also a state champion 100-yard dash, because back then it was 100 yards, and long jump champion.
He was just a better athlete than everyone in that era.
So
doesn't matter how big he was.
When we think 7-footers, we tend to think dopey, not fluid.
Right.
We don't think 100-yard dash champion, long jump champion. That's just, he had the combination of size and athleticism that we rarely see.
Is the NBA starting to go the way of college basketball, where the regular season is almost meaningless?
That's a good question.
And we only care about the playoffs?
I care less about the regular season than I ever have before.
Yes.
It is, to the extent that players are taking more nights off. You're not guaranteed who's going to play in any game. You're not guaranteed you're going to see your stars.
Plus 2/3 of if you include the play-in, which
Two-thirds
of the teams make the playoffs, essentially.
At least play past the regular season.
Yes.
And you're different because I know you are a major basketball fan. You watch a game every night, I'm guessing.
My interest is waned. I'm not going to.
Right, but you know what I think has done it, guys? This.
Yeah.
I used to watch Major League Baseball every night of the season. Mm-hmm. If the Indians were off, I would find another game to watch. Mm-hmm. I now find myself living my life. I've just decided, I'm like, you know what? I've been a slave to this box for so many hours of my life. And as you get older, and this will happen for you, it's probably happening somewhat to you, you just realize I can keep my interest as a fan and do something else. I can go to dinner and not see a pitch and feel like I didn't miss anything because I get alerts every time there's a score change in a Guardians game.
Not only that, but the NBA, and this was strategic by the NBA probably 10, 11 years ago, right when I started college, it wanted to be a social league because it was worldwide, international, and it said, unlike the NFL, which restricts all its rights and videos, obviously you guys see our show, we can't use them, the MLB, which is a terrible job of sharing their accomplishments, the NBA said, we're going to put everything out and you can use it.
And by the way, Adam Silver was once again ahead of the curve.
Way ahead of his curve.
He was the one that embraced gambling first.
Yep.
He was the one that said, why would we restrict something that promotes our in-progress games?
On the flip side of that, now fast forward 11 years, it is so accessible.
Maybe it's too accessible.
You don't have to watch a game, and you could watch, and you go on Twitter, Instagram,
see the dunk of the night.
YouTube. You don't have to watch SportsCenter. You just go on your phone, and in 5 minutes, you can know exactly what happened in the game. You could read the box. You could read the game recap. You could look at the box score. You could see the highlights all in one page. And you don't have to watch. So it's almost become to the flip side where it's too accessible to, we're the regular season now. You just don't have to watch games because you know what happens.
And it's the nature of the sport, too. I agree. Even I, who am a diehard baseball fan like you, watch less baseball than I used to. I mean, when I was working in New York, I would watch almost every Met, Yankee, and Cub game.
Did you sleep?
Not much.
Did you eat?
And then when I first moved here, I was watching every Indians and Cubs game. And now, I watch a lot, but I don't watch every game. And last year, I barely watched the Cubs because I knew they were going to be bad. I was like, I don't have the time.
Yeah. I tell you, I've watched one college basketball game start to finish this year.
I haven't watched any.
Corey was in for the Big Ten Championships last week, and Wednesday night, there was a big game. Rutgers was playing Michigan. Rutgers, I think, is pretty solid in their tournament bid. But Michigan was a bubble team. It was at Rutgers, and Corey wanted to watch it, so I watched. I wanted to scream after about 8 minutes. There was a 6-minute stretch where neither team scored a field goal.
So
it is the worst level of basketball I have ever seen at the collegiate level. And it's unwatchable.
The reason for that is if you're good, you go to the NBA.
Yeah.
And the
I mean,
guys
the
who
best
stay-
players are gone.
And by the way, I was just reading yesterday. So the NBA has to decide by, I believe, this summer, or maybe it's next summer. I can't remember.
Next summer.
If they're going to extend
Next summer.
their current CBA. So they've been negotiating, and apparently the negotiations are going really well, which you're not used to hearing in sports.
Yeah, I know.
But one of the things that Adam Silver said is we're probably going to change the rule where you have to only be 18 instead of 19 to play in the NBA.
You could go from the high school
straight
ranks.
from high school.
Which is why all those draft picks are becoming more valuable after 2025.
right,
Because then it's going to be two classes. That 2025 NBA draft
Yeah,
class,
you're
those
right.
picks
Right.
are like double
Which
cachet.
means college basketball is going to get even worse.
Well,
Even
the
worse.
drawing pool gets bigger for the
exactly.
NBA draft in 2025. Yeah, I'm not interested. Now, when the tournament rolls around, I
Yeah.
will be interested because now we're talking about the best teams. But even then, it's more about the bracket sheet
Right.
and the competition.
Right. I think I'm definitely more interested in the NBA than I am college basketball.
I always have been.
But every year with the NBA, I have less and less interest in the regular season. Once the playoffs start, I'm in. I'm
Yeah,
into it.
I am
with-
too.
But
What's crazy about that, Bull, is I think the regular season's worse than ever. I think the NBA playoffs are better than ever. And it's because these teams,
I agree with that.
they walk through the regular season, like you
Well,
said.
you're getting max effort in the playoffs.
And now for 48 minutes, you are seeing two teams slog it out, fight it out. I love the adjustments game to game, which
yeah.
I'm excited to see how Bickerstaff adjusts in a 7-game series to seeing a team night after night after night. And the fact that, you get so accustomed not seeing defense that when you see a little defense, you're like, hey,
good.
Yeah, I
look
know.
at that
Right.
rotation.
The other thing, too,
Yeah.
in college basketball, which makes the tournament so great, is the immediate urgency. All the games are Game 7s.
right,
Yeah.
right.
And
yeah.
to me, there's nothing more exciting in sports than a Game 7. You give me
the
a Game
best.
7, I don't care if it's the NHL Stanley Cup Final, I'm in.
Right.
Because it's the urgency of that. Every single possession matters. It's like baseball. Every pitch
Right.
is so important in a Game 7.
Well, that's why football is king, because every game is a game
Every
7.
game matters.
Every game feels like
And
a
the
Game
regular,
7.
it's the only sport where the playoffs is a game 7 every game, and the regular season matters.
And that's why I'm against expanding the college football playoff, but that's a discussion for another day.
Yeah, it'll end up being 6. It's already going to 12.
It's going to expand, but I like
will
it at 4 because
probably
it keeps every game
cap
important.
out at 16. Before we leave the Cavs and Donovan Mitchell in the dust, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't point out that he is currently 10 3-pointers from tying J.R. Smith's season record.
Single season Cavs record.
Single season Cavs record. He's 11 threes from breaking it. I mean, you can average these things out. It's going to happen within 2 or 3 games. You guys want to venture a guess if it's 2, 3? Where is it?
You want to start, Bull?
I
I broke this down if you want me to start.
So they're playing.
They play Boston tomorrow,
Yep.
Detroit Saturday, Boston Monday.
I say he does it against Detroit.
I do too.
I said
Late against Detroit.
I said Boston Monday. I think Boston, after those early 2 regular season losses, is going to come out on fire. I think that game on Wednesday night might get a little ugly for the Cavs. He comes back with a big performance against Detroit, and then he breaks in the first quarter against Boston. He has 9 after the first 2 games, and he has 2 in the first quarter against Boston on Monday to break the record while you're texting Jason Lloyd if you're
I got
That's
4
awfully
against Boston.
specific. I think we have to write that down so we can call that.
There you go.
Call back to that.
I'm
He
in.
gets 9 in the Boston and Detroit games combined. He gets 2 in the
first quarter against Boston.
Monday.
And then Jason Lloyd is texting with the coaches tier members, and he's going to
As
tell
he
you he
breaks
broke
it.
the record.
Is anybody going to be excited about that record getting
No.
broken?
No, because
It won't stop the game.
It'll
It
be
won't
broken
give
the
him
next year
basketball.
again, and then Darius Garland will break JR's record, and next thing you know, in 2 years, Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell will have 1, 2, 3, and 4 on that list.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the NBA now is a 3-point game, and that's why somebody stumbled upon this the other day. I think it was you that said the Cavs are 20th in the
Yeah,
league
20th
in
in the league.
3-point, in either percentage or 3 points
Made threes a game, yeah.
Okay, that to me is you're not going to win an NBA championship. That would be like winning a Super Bowl and you're 20th in passing. It's not going to happen.
Right.
It's that 3-point shot is to the NBA what the passing game is to the NFL.
When's the last time a team that was not in at least a top 10?
That's a great question.
Well, the Warriors have won it all those years. They were definitely top 10.
Right.
The Raptors weren't a great three-point shooting team.
They had great depth all around though.
Well, when the Cavs won,
They
JR
had
was a good
JR,
shooter.
they had-
Kevin
JR,
Love was a good
Kevin
shooter.
Love. I bet you they made a lot of threes.
I bet they were up in the upper tier of
makes.
teams.
I'd
in
like to know
threes.
that.
It's a
I'm gonna
great
guess-
research project.
Yeah.
If
My guess
somebody
is
out
the
there wants
Raptors.
to help us out, figure out the last 10 NBA champions, where they ranked in 3-point shots.
One more thing on the NBA before we pivot. Obviously, I played college basketball. All I did was shoot threes.
Right?
And for a while, I was like, man, I just came into basketball too early.
You were
Like, I
born
missed-
5 years too soon.
But now, I think it's opposite. I don't think I have a role in today's NBA. Everyone shoots.
Well, you didn't have a role in yesterday's NBA either.
Well, but you know what I'm saying? In, like today's era, that's fair. That's
Did your alma mater make the D3 tournament?
They did.
Yeah.
So you were good.
My team was really good. Yeah.
No. I mean this year.
This year they made it. Yeah.
Okay.
I actually didn't make it in my.
You didn't. I was just looking at the D3 bracket.
They did make it. Yep.
One of the schools I did play-by-play for made it.
How many teams make the D3?
64.
64.
It's a real tournament.
Yeah. It's a real tournament.
But my point is, everyone shoots threes now.
Yeah.
I don't have a spot in today's game of basketball. I'm just a short guy that shoots, not the shooter.
Yeah, you're right, because
Everyone's a
your role
shooter.
before was either you had great handles or you were
shot.
just a lights out three. What was your field goal percent? Your 3-point shooting percentage? Do you remember?
Like 41%.
That's pretty damn good.
I was a really good shooter.
Yeah, I mean that's. Really
And I
good.
shot 97% of my shots were from three. Like I just.
How many free throws did you take?
You want to hear a funny free throw story real quick?
Yeah.
We were playing Babson my junior year, and I was coming off injury, and I didn't play a lot till my last 2 years. There was a technical late in the game, and I just got in the game. My coach was like, "You shoot free throws." Like,
I imagine you were 90 plus.
very good free throw shooter. I airballed the first one by like 7 feet.
Oh,
so
embarrassing.
bad. And-
Why? Nerves?
Were people making fun of you?
oh my God, the crowd got on
Yeah.
me bad. I just came in the game, wasn't maybe taking one trip up the court, really wasn't loose. I don't take many free throws 'cause I just shoot threes.
Yeah.
And yeah, I bought about 7 feet. I'll put the video on Twitter. I have it. It's pretty bad.
God.
It's pretty bad.
Yikes.
It's pretty bad.
I think you're gassing it. It wasn't 7 feet short.
Nah, but it was.
It felt like it in the
when you
moment.
airball any free throw, it could be
That's
by 1 inch. And
embarrassing.
yeah.
It's the worst. I mean, it's the easiest target in the world.
And then
to
I
get. 'Cause you have
clanked the second one. I shot it way too hard. I was so embarrassed.
to- You missed them both.
Oh my
Dude,
God, yeah.
That reminds me. I'll tell this very quick story. My buddy, shout out to my pal Tariq Spence, one of my college friends.
Shout out
You had
Tariq.
a buddy named Tariq Spence.
Yeah, he's a DJ in Rochester, New York, at
Imagine
an
bowling
urban
Tariq
station.
on a
an
Saturday
urban
night.
station.
We need to get a reel of Bull giving all of the
all the
shout-outs.
shout-outs.
That would be so good.
So I
shout out to my dentist.
he and I were doing so in Division III, as Mike knows. Usually the men and women travel together.
Yes.
Sometimes early in the season they'll play separately, but in conference games they always travel together.
Yeah, save money.
double
Usually
headers.
the women will play at 6, the men will play at 8. That's how we did it. Although more recent years they would flip-flop it sometimes. But anyway, so we in our conference, we went to Brockport College. It's the State University of New York Athletic Conference. There was one school we played at called Potsdam, which is way like
by
northern
Marist,
New York.
right?
What's that?
By Marist, right?
No, I
No,
don't think
it's
so.
even further north.
Potsdam is almost in
Upstate.
Canada.
Yeah,
Okay.
Like
way the hell up
it's central New York, but northern
I think
central
they
New
have a
York.
pretty good hockey program.
They do it, or at least they did when
Yeah.
I was in school.
Yeah.
So we were at Pot. Usually in Division III, the play-by-play guys sit on the court because there's not a lot of media, whatever.
Right.
At Potsdam, they didn't have the ability to connect to a phone line on the court, so we would sit on this perch right behind one of the baskets. Okay, so we're doing, but that's a weird angle behind the basket.
really
sometimes.
weird.
So we're doing play-by-play, and my buddy and I would do the games, Tariq. We would alternate. Like sometimes I'd do the play-by-play for the women, and he'd do the color, and vice versa for the men. So we were doing the men's game, and he's doing the play-by-play. It's a 1-point game, and our team shoots at the basket, and he goes, I can't even remember the player. I'll say. He goes, and Jackson makes the basket. The Golden Eagles win. The Golden Eagles win. And I'm standing there like,
He missed.
there was a missed shot, but because of our angle, it looked like it was
probably
nothing but
hit
net.
the net.
It hit the net. It was an air ball that hit the bottom of the net. We were at a tricky angle. I happened to see it.
Yeah.
He didn't. Now, we probably had like 18 people listening because it's college radio Division
Parents
III.
of all the players.
But it was so
That is sad. That's
funny.
that hurts. You have a read you want to do, right, Anthony?
Yeah, I would just want to remind everybody that memberships are a thing, and today in overtime, I have a pretty hot take for food, a very Midwestern take.
And apparently I'm going to crush him
Probably
for.
apparently fight.
You're
Bull
gonna
with.
disagree with him for sure.
Yeah, no, Bull and I are not going to agree on this at all. So if you do $1.99 a month, you get some custom emojis and loyalty badges, and if you do $4.99 a month, you join our coaches tier membership, and you can get overtime and a couple discounts at Cleveland Clothing Company, and you get to text Jason Lloyd when Donovan Mitchell breaks JR's three-point record.
There you go. And a lot of
There you
people
go.
locked into the show today. I saw we had good numbers earlier in the show. And so, but become an overtime member. It's very inexpensive, and you get all the bonus content. It's great. And who knows, in the future, there may be some extra things for.
It's coming. We have some things in the works. We just need to finalize some dates. We got some really cool stuff
Did you
coming.
guys see Steve, our executive producer, sent us a tweet. I don't know if
Yeah.
this is a joke or not. It says, breaking news, NFL legend Tom Brady has drawn up a game plan for a new career in stand-up comedy, but his inner circle has been trying to talk him out of it.
It's from ML Football's.
That's a joke.
No, but he says this is per Radar Online.
ML Football, anything ML Football. Steve Becker, you just got trolled online.
Steve got it. I was going to say, and now it goes on to say, Brady was interviewed by sources who tell us his quote was, "If that effing McNuggets can do it, I know I can do it." I don't know if that's real or not.
Oh, man. By the way, Stefanski walked by Jason Lloyd apparently like 5 minutes after he went off.
Did he really? That's great.
Yeah.
Do you think?
I see that now.
Do we think Jason had the pull to bring Stefanski over for 1 second to the show?
He would in theory, but yeah, I mean, he has a relationship with Stefanski.
He does,
would,
but
I don't know that Stefanski would have done it, though.
Yeah, I don't think so.
If he would do it for anybody, Jason would probably be higher up on that list.
Yeah.
But I don't think he would do it for anybody right now.
Steve said I thought it was funny, so I shared the tweet.
Yeah, very funny. Ha ha, very funny.
There you go.
But Tom Brady's already got his next career mapped out. I mean, he's automatically
$300 million.
Tom Brady's got enough good things. He ain't funny. I've never heard him be
he's
funny.
not funny.
I
Although,
can't imagine.
You know what? Peyton Manning's funny.
Peyton is Eli Manning's very funny too.
Funny.
But I don't know. We don't know. Peyton Manning's funny. Like, yes, I don't know if he'd be getting good at stand-up.
That's a whole
But
other gear, man.
that thing on Saturday Night Live where he with the kids playing football, one of the funniest things
he's
I've
a
ever
great
seen.
actor.
Yeah.
He the Monday Night Football telecast, the Manning cast.
I like it.
I
My only problem with it is I think we have too many guests.
Yeah. It's become more of an event than game coverage.
Yes.
But if I don't care about the game or the teams that are playing,
it's way better than a traditional broadcast.
Way better than the
well,
traditional
he gives
broadcast.
you both of them, but especially Peyton, give you great insight.
Yeah.
And they're both very self-deprecating, which you appreciate because usually sometimes superstars can be uptight about that.
I love the commercial when they were trying to promote the Pro Bowl, which was unpromotable.
Yeah.
But they were talking at halftime at midfield, and Peyton's mom, their mother called, and Peyton takes a call and he's like, Yeah, it's Mom. I got to go. And he turns around and was like, "Yeah, it's Eli." And he's like, "Tell her I said hi," or I want to talk. She doesn't want to talk to you. And then his last line was, "Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. He's wearing pants that are way too tight." It's just so funny.
They're legitimately funny, but it may be too guest heavy. If we could get the guests they got, we'd take them all. We wouldn't say any of the words we ever. We would take all of them.
It wasn't as guest-centric as it's become.
No, but they were so good that people wanted to come up.
What happened was this accidental lightning in a bottle that happens sometimes in media. I mean, I think we've captured that clearly here with this show.
No doubt.
But
people
what
want to be part
was
of it.
They were fearful early on that they wouldn't be able to get an A-list guest for every game.
Yeah.
So they didn't really want to promote it as if they were going to have an A-list guest for every game. And what happened in very, very short order was they had people lining up.
Right. They have multiple A-list.
They had President Obama.
Condoleezza Rice.
That's crazy.
People from the non-sports sphere.
Yeah.
A lot of
music.
big actors, musicians that are big fans. And I got to tell you, that's why to me it's more entertaining. Now, I could never watch a Browns game that way. Never in a billion years.
No,
but for your average Monday night game, the Raiders and even the Chiefs, that would be a divisional game. I would much rather watch it with the Mannings.
Although I think the main broadcast gets better ratings, I believe.
It still
Part
does.
of that's because it's on ESPN versus ESPN2,
That's
right?
a lot of that is.
What percentage of people that have ESPN have ESPN2?
So it's about 85%. It used to be.
It doesn't automatically come together?
No, there's most of your premium tier, or excuse me, your basic cable will include ESPN. It doesn't always include ESPN2. The conversion rate was if you did 1 million households on ESPN, the conversion was if it was airing on ESPN2, it would probably do about 800,000 households.
80%, give or take.
So it was about 80 to 85%. And they've come up with that. Obviously, they do simulcast sometimes, very infrequently, but sometimes they put both of them on there. What's fascinating to me is that Disney has always chosen to put the games on ESPN when they would probably do a better number on ABC.
Sure.
Just because it's over the air, it's
ABC.
free, and a lot of the broadcast penetration is about 100% of the country.
Right.
Even though we think that cable penetration is 100, it's not 100%. It's more like 90%. There's still 10% of American.
I would have guessed it was even less than that.
No, it's
got to be going down
now.
too.
It's stream now, so cable has been replaced by streaming, and most of your households do have fast, high-speed internet, but not all of them. and some of them don't have.
I do
any
have
streaming
one friend that
devices.
has no television at all.
No,
by
Netflix,
choice.
no.
They just don't want to watch television.
Nope.
Yeah.
It's a girl. It's a woman.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say girl. But she's has a boyfriend, and they do not watch any TV.
Yeah. There are evenings where my television set does not get turned on. It's more infrequent now because there's almost always a game on in today's broadcast climate.
Sure.
But I
Think back to when you and I were kids, Jay, and it was so hard to watch a game, especially any team outside of your area.
I can't imagine.
For you, it was tough because you were in New York being a Bengals fan
And Cubs
a
fan.
Cubs fan.
Yeah.
But if you were a Mets, Yankees, Giants, Jets, you saw everything. You never missed anything.
Right, it was all free, but that was great. That part of it was all on free TV.
But you weren't getting out of market.
But you couldn't watch anything out of market.
No.
Nothing. When I got to see when the Cubs played the Mets, it was like, oh my God.
No, I know. It was crazy.
Yeah.
It really was.
Sorry.
No, Anthony.
Speaking of baseball.
We'll do 10 minutes and we'll do your top 5.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
I'm not in love with my top 5 today, but that's fine. Let's get it.
Well,
Let's get into Guardians.
That means we might be able to make fun of you.
You're in the seat, so you're doing it today no matter what.
Yeah, we talked about this yesterday, and Bull brought that up on the call, and I thought the same thing. When I got this, I go, I think we did it.
Yeah.
But in the rundown for this segment of the show was which Guardian's going to benefit most from the new rules. And I on both fronts, I think it's Jose Ramirez on the shift and the bigger bases. But I think Quan is going to also enjoy. Teams did shift on Quan last year. Not a lot, but they did. He just puts the ball in play. So I think if you put the ball in play, you're more likely to benefit from a field that has more holes in it now than it previously did.
I also think if you look at the numbers, just in general, a guy like Naylor, lefties will benefit because teams are more comfortable overshifting a lefty
much more
than a righty.
Yes. Because of the double play scenario, if there's a runner on, the double play scenario gets really wonky if you've got a third baseman now where the shortstop is, and the shortstop is playing second, essentially.
I was looking at some statistics of, it was 2012 lefties when they pulled the ball versus 2022 as opposed to righties.
Yeah.
And for righties, it wasn't this huge disparity. For lefties, it was like a 50-point drop in batting average.
Really?
Some maybe 40, but it was like some huge amount since shifts have become big.
And to that point, I think Jose Ramirez is the guy, so I went with two different ones. The first one was Miles Straw, just because he was 21 of 22 stealing bases last year. The bases are bigger. Yeah. He may not ever hit for a super high average. I don't think the shift really affects him, but hey, I'll take a guy who hits 225 but steals 40 bases.
Yeah.
In my lineup, if he's the one hole. The second guy was Josh Bell, to exactly your point. He mashes righties. He's a switch hitter. Not terrible against lefties, but great against righties.
Not like Naylor against lefties.
And I was looking up, and I found a Baseball Savant. Are you guys familiar with that website?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wasn't very good. That had every analytic and hit spray chart. 75% of his balls hit his BABIP. Balls in play were to the right side of the field. Pull side from the left side of the plate.
Right. BABIP is batting average on balls in play.
I'm getting my analytics confused here,
but that's still it's a metric that you can glean some information from.
And his exit velo was significantly higher as a lefty, and it was always significantly higher to the pull side,
He's a much better left-handed
which is not uncommon because that's your pull side.
He's adequate as a right. He's not Naylor. As a right-handed hitter, Naylor's not a switch hitter, but as a right-handed hitter against lefties, Bell's an adequate player. Naylor's useless against lefties.
And I didn't realize with Bell, by the way, it's a one-year deal with a player option for the second year.
It is.
I wasn't aware of that.
I think they've done that in 17 when they brought over, who was the guy they brought in from the Blue Jays?
Encarnacion?
No, that was a multi-year deal.
Was it? I thought it was 2 with an option. I thought it was 1 with a second year
option. It was definitely
option.
At least 2 years.
Yeah. But did they pick up his option after season 1?
No, I think it was a multi. We can double check that, but I'm pretty sure it was a multi-year deal. There was an option at the end.
I look at that though as a 2-year deal. I mean, if he's good and we want to keep him, we can.
Well, Bell has a player option.
It's a player option.
He does.
And Bell said, in a quote I looked at, Bell said, "I love the fact that there's no shift. It's going to help me get my power back, and I'm using that player option as motivation to come out and absolutely mash this year."
We want him to not pick up that option because he's only picking up that option if he has a bad year.
Yeah,
true.
Yeah.
So, maybe you can re-sign him there if you want.
Well,
but
they probably won't.
I'll take a great season from him.
Give me one
great
season, but I think with the shift and that extra motivation, I'm expecting a monster year from Josh Bell this year.
I hope so.
One way or another.
It's going to be a big upgrade at that position. I think we upgrade at catcher. We really. I don't even count center field as a weakness because he's so good defensively and on the bases. But
That's the only
would be nice to upgrade center field, too.
Miles Straw's the only weakness in the lineup.
Yeah.
Is Zanino a lefty or righty hitter, by the way?
Is who?
Zanino.
He's a righty.
I think he's a. Wow, I don't know
Is
why
he
I
a
was thinking
switch
he was a
hitter?
switch hitter, but no, he's probably a righty.
I think he's a
now I got to
righty.
look it up. I don't remember.
One of the things I've always been fascinated about, Bull, and I'm sure you spent a lot of time thinking about this too, is the mechanics of a left-handed swing versus the mechanics of a right-handed swing. Lefties are typically they're great low ball hitters.
Yes.
Righties are not as good at hitting low pitches, and I'm just fascinated by that.
It's so weird.
It is really weird.
And that's why I think we always think of the lefty swing as the prettier swing.
It is.
The Darryl Strawberry, the Ken Griffey Jr.
It's the more natural fluid.
Yeah.
Someone once told me that
Why
has
is that?
something to do with the fact that you are running towards first base. And as a hitter, you subconsciously or not are starting that process. It's almost like when a wide receiver is like this and the ball's not in his hands yet and he's doing this. He's running with the ball before he gets it. Your momentum as a hitter is ultimately going to have to take you to first base.
Right.
Well, with a lefty, that swing and the fall off
takes you to first.
you're already down there. Whereas
Right.
for a righty, you have to finish the process of swinging,
Right.
and then reverse your momentum 90 degrees.
And Zanino
which
is a right-handed hitter. He's
The
not a
right-handed
switch
hitter?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you have any other thoughts on guys that will struggle with some of these new rules changes?
Well, when I came
Go ahead.
up with the topic last night, when Mike and I were talking about it, I was thinking about like Class A and how long he takes between pitches. I haven't heard you guys mention our pitching lineup and the pitch clock yet.
I'm more worried about Karinchak than I am Class A because Karinchak's a
fidgety.
lunatic.
He's so
and
fidgety out there.
Like Class A, I think, he's going to have to adjust. I'm just not that worried about it. These guys are, you adjust. You have 5 weeks, 6 weeks of spring training. Let's go. Get used to it.
With guys on base, they get 20 seconds, and I think that's reasonable. I will tell you that from watching what little bit I watched over the weekend, there were times where the 15-second clock felt
It goes
really
quick.
quick.
I know.
You know how you're watching a basketball game and you're not looking at the shot clock, and then all of a sudden you realize, oh my God, it's at 5.
Right, yeah,
Like,
right.
where did that go?
Yeah.
They didn't waste their time bringing it over midcourt, half court, and they made a couple of passes, and now it's time to start thinking about that shot.
I think in the long run, we're all going to love this. There'll be a couple of times where it affects a game and we'll get annoyed.
Yeah.
But in the long run, as players adjust and as more and more young players think the game is getting younger and younger, the young players are used to this now in the minors.
Yeah.
I guarantee you there's no guy who's like 25 and younger that's going to complain about this.
Have you
'Cause they're
heard from
used to it.
anybody that just hates it yet?
Fans?
Yeah. Or media. Because I have not. I haven't heard from
not
anybody
really.
that has flat out said,
No.
this is a horrible idea.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that yet.
We'll have those complaints here and there, but I think by the end of the year we'll be like, wow, I'm glad the games are quicker.
And you know what I hope we're saying by July?
Yeah.
Remember when we would have to carve out like a 3.5, 4 hour block to
Yeah.
come to a game? And now we can be home
Crazy.
at 9:30.
I mean, you talk about not wanting to spend as much time in front of the TV, not wanting to spend it. Well, I mean, I want to watch a game in 2.5 hours.
We all do.
When we were kids, the games were faster.
Yeah, they were.
I remember every time Greg Maddux would pitch, it seemed like it was a 2-hour game.
Yeah. Well, he didn't throw balls.
Yeah.
He didn't give up runs.
Right.
And
part of it.
And he was quick.
Part of it, when we were younger, you didn't have the pitching changes like you have now.
I'm wondering, do you know if the between innings time has ever changed?
I don't know that, but I
I
did
don't
see
know.
that some pitchers are going to take golf carts from the dugout to the mound
Is
to
just
speed up because the clock starts as soon as they make the pitching change. That clock starts them to warm up. So to save time, instead of sprinting down there, they're going to take a golf cart.
I think we read the
Are
Mets
you-
were bringing back
Yeah.
Is that
theirs.
are you?
I'm
Is that
serious.
real?
Yeah,
They
I'm serious.
used to do that.
Listen, it used to be a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Used to be a thing. Not every relief pitcher did it.
No.
But here comes the cart driving right on the field.
Yeah.
It used to, it was definitely a thing.
There was.
It'll be interesting if every ballpark goes to that.
How do you become the golf? I want to be the golf cart driver
That'd
that
be a
just
great
shuttles
gig, wouldn't it?
back and forth. Class A and Karinchak.
And
Those
it's brought
guys.
to you by Uber, so the whole thing's wrapped in Uber.
Brought to you by Steve. How do we get UCSS? We know Curtis. We're
Yeah.
gonna go with Curtis. UCSS needs to be the sponsor of the Guardians bullpen cart.
I think
That's
instead
my
of
goal.
playing their walkout song through the entire stadium, they should just put a big boom box on the cart then. So it just kind of.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, I think the game's
Yeah.
going to be. I think the game of baseball will be more different this year from last than it any point in my fandom.
I mean, think about
the designated hitter change.
That was huge.
Was big, really big. But it didn't fundamentally change every pitch.
No. Right.
And this changes every single game that you go to will be different.
I feel like the 15-year-old Adam would have hated all these rules, and now I love them all.
Really?
Which is crazy because they're targeted for younger.
I know that, but I was 15 in the 80s, and
I see what you mean.
As a kid in New York, you were obsessed with baseball. I didn't have a single friend I knew that didn't love baseball. Everybody. Most kids now don't love baseball.
And we played it.
Everybody played.
We played it. We'd go to the park. We'd have pickup games. It was never a problem to get. You don't always have 18 people.
Right.
You know, sometimes you had, right field was an out automatically.
Right.
You'd play pitcher's hand. But if you had like 12, 14 guys, you could have a fun game. And we never had a hard time finding players. We would all ride the bikes around the neighborhood. We'd gather up, and a lot of girls in the neighborhood played too. We had a lot of tomboy girls in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
And we would go to the park, and we would play for 3-4 hours until it was dinner time to come home.
Well, now every kid's sports is so structured now. We would just go to the park and play. That was it.
I go by baseball parks now, and it's obvious these haven't been used in years.
I know. It's sad.
Really sad.
Well, State Road Park in Parma, you're not allowed to without a permit. You can't go out there. You could get fined for
That's
playing
stupid.
on the,
Even if it's
playing on the
empty?
fields.
That's stupid.
That's crazy.
As far as I know, I don't know if it's
Stupid.
changed recently.
Straighten out, Parma.
Hey, let's do your top 5.
Yeah.
Top
Yeah,
5
we'll get into it.
favorite gym lifts, right?
Yeah, so
This
as
is
everybody
yours
knows-
and not Mike's?
I
feel like-
already vehemently
mine,
disagree
yeah.
with this, by the way. He only told me 5, and that would have been on my 5 least favorite ones. So
Well, when you're in the gym, I feel like I'm always seeing you do the same ones.
Yeah, I mean, I always do arms and backs here on Fridays, and then I have a buddy that I work out with for the rest of the week that we do everything else.
Okay.
Yeah, so my number 5 here, I'll just get right into it, is weighted lunges, because this was the only leg workout at soccer that didn't make me want to die.
Yeah.
These are the worst.
It's easy to do, it's simple, and I didn't want to cry when I did it.
they're miserable.
Yeah, no.
Absolutely miserable. That would be on my least 5.
I
favorite
hate them
lifts.
too because of my knees. But
Bull, thoughts on weighted
No
lunges?
comment.
no comment. Number 4.
No
Number
offense,
4,
Anthony. I think this is the most boring topic I've ever heard.
Yeah, look, we were thinking of a top 5. I tried killing it. You guys said,
Yeah,
let's do it. all right?
It's
I was
yours.
gonna go to
Hey,
final takes.
It's your turn.
I
your
think
time
we
to
all
shine.
have our top 5. I know
I'd
do.
rather have a list of top 5 body parts.
Yeah,
We're
but that
not-
could
we're
get real
not getting
dicey.
to that.
What is the elbow? fit on
Number
your top?
4.
Elbow
Number
does not
4,
make my top
this
5.
one's a little bit special to me, is a bench press, because I just fell in love with it this year.
Oh, really?
Because of my heart surgery, I wasn't supposed to be able to build up my chest muscle, and I can finally bench over 100 pounds.
I remember you
and I'm
told me
proud
that.
of myself for that.
Attaboy.
So I put that one on the list.
I didn't know you had heart surgery. When did you have
I had
heart
heart
He's
surgery?
got a
surgery.
giant
Oh,
scar. Yeah.
Major heart
I didn't
surgery.
know. You never told me about this.
Anthony, he'll strip down after the show.
I only learned of it one day we
Yeah.
were working out in the gym.
Wow.
And you said something
For
about
members
for you,
only,
Anthony.
I'll take my shirt off after the show.
By the way, I heard.
We're losing members so fast right now.
Oh, yeah, everybody's canceling.
By the way, I
Is
heard
that a perk or a penalty?
Joe Thomas was on with Mitchell Schwartz on his podcast
Yeah.
recently, and Mitchell asked him what he thought because he doesn't have any.
said the bench press is irrelevant.
Right. He says the bench press. Joe Thomas said the bench press is the most irrelevant thing at the combine. It is completely meaningless.
Yep.
It has no value to. It shows
Why do they
nothing
do
about
it
an
then?
offensive lineman.
'Cause
He
it's-
says they do it because it looks cool
Oh,
on
for
TV.
offensive linemen.
No, he said it's meaningless. Period.
See, I disagree with that.
I kind of lean towards Joe because even though it's weird, 'cause
He's-
offensive linemen, they do use that push
But
motion.
he talked about there are other weightlifting things. I can't remember what he mentioned specifically that are
I
more an
think that's
indicator
all-
for how good you'd be.
To
as an
me,
offensive lineman.
the way they do it, they rep 225.
Yeah.
To me, it's just
it's a strength contest.
it's endurance.
Yeah.
It's not even pure strength. If they were interested in pure strength, they would say, well, what's your max?
Well, no,
We
back.
got
What
to
they're
ask.
doing is they're doing a repetitive motion, and they're finding out what your muscle capacity is to carry oxygen. Before everybody peaks, whatever it is. If it's 22, 24, 29, you get to that spot and you're done. I mean, you're out.
Yeah.
And to me, I was always impressed by the guys that could snap off 30.
He says it's meaningless.
Yeah.
We got to ask
Joe
him next
knows more
time.
than I do about it.
We got to ask him next time he's on.
All right.
For like the
Yeah, it's a fun
clarification.
bragging right workout.
I'm
I
surprised
like
that
that.
I'm surprised that you had it so low, but because you haven't been able to
until-
do it.
When I started working out heavily in college, I couldn't get past like 20 pounds on each side. I just couldn't do it. So
Right.
until recently. But number 3, I got the lat pull down, working out my back.
I always see you doing that.
Yep,
It's a
that's
great
my
one.
favorite one.
That is
That's one
definitely
of my favorites
It's
to
one of
work
your
out the back.
faves.
Down with a
An
good
honorable
lat pull
mention,
down.
It's one of my favorites too. I love it.
Mike taught me how to do a standing row,
Right.
which I had never done before. Honorable mention. It's getting up there. I like doing that one too. I
good.
do that one here. Number 2,
Lat
leg
pull down,
press.
great choice.
Leg press is a good one.
Great one, yep.
I hate squatting. I despise squatting.
Well,
so
you
leg
know,
press is my
we have the
favorite.
hydraulic rack over here. Have you tried that?
I have not actually.
Try it. It's a lot better.
By the way, I did like doing that when I would go to the gym occasionally because I have very strong legs and I'm heavy, so I could always do a ton of weight. So I felt like that was the one exercise I could do to kind of show
Put
off.
a lot of plates
Yeah,
on.
it's,
You're like,
it's
"Ah!"
a real good confidence booster. I
But
like
it is,
doing that
yeah.
one.
By the way, was top 5 brands of yogurt not available today, Anthony?
No, but we're gonna get into a pizza topic.
Yeah, look at those legs,
overtime,
Steve. Yeah, good job.
All right.
Bull
number
does,
one.
but before you put up, don't forget, Bull has great calves.
I do. Thank
We-
you.
does.
He does?
He showed on like one of the
showed
first
the
times on
calves
the show.
once,
I do
And
remember that
I was shocked.
My calves
Bull,
are jacked.
Bull has phenomenal calves.
I'm not showing them again. I don't
Are
feel
you
like
a
getting
toe
up.
walker?
I
Once
have
it
no.
warms up. We're
don't know.
Schwartz Bowl.
I have
a
no
lot
calves.
Of, a lot
so
of folks that have developed calves tend to their gait tends to put most of their weight on the
Maybe.
front of their foot.
Maybe I am.
I have no
Yeah.
calves. So
You might be.
All right,
What's your
number
favorite?
1, my favorite one since college.
gotta be
I love
curls.
doing landmines because it works
Oh,
out
wow.
everything, and I don't know why.
never
It's
heard of
just-
that.
It's fun.
Yeah. No, it is
Once
fun.
again, replace the squats.
Yeah. Well, you really do hate squats.
I hate squats.
I
It
hate
hurts
squats,
my neck.
too.
It
well,
hurts everything.
landmines are essentially squats. It's just
They
yeah,
are.
but I don't have to put the bar on the back
The
of my
weight,
neck for it.
the weight is
The weight distribution is very different,
It's
yeah.
distributed a different way.
By the way,
And it does work everything. You're right. Like when I'm doing squats, I'm just your ass and legs. That's it.
Yeah.
It's a real ISO move, and that you're working arms, chest, definitely glutes, everything.
by the way, on tomorrow's show, top 5 tourist destinations in Iceland. That's going to be a big one.
I'm sure there's a couple Game of Thrones sets we can find.
Earl's in the seat
Yeah.
tomorrow, so we
Yeah.
can see if Earl has a
Earl's daughter's team made the state tournament, didn't
whatever's
they?
next. They won
I think
again.
States.
High school?
Yeah, whatever.
Earl has a daughter in high school.
I know. It's hard to
freshman.
believe.
Yeah, she's a freshman.
Freshman, Warrensville.
Would he have her when he was like 12? Earl's a young.
I think Earl's a little older
Earl's
than
older
you
than
think
you
is
think.
he?
Earl's older than you think he is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Earl's a little older than you think he is.
He's
But
the oldest one on the
dude,
production
man.
team. I can tell you that.
Earl's good people.
Earl's the best.
Earl's a
and shout out to
good
his daughter. I
dude.
think he plays at. I think she's at Warrensville, right? Where
Yes.
Brad
At
is.
Warrensville
Yes.
Heights? I
Yeah.
think so, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I think they're. So I think
congratulations.
they're in the final
Is she
4.
does she play on the varsity team as a freshman or no?
She does, but I don't think she. I don't think
she's
she
a-
I
plays.
believe she's a
Rotation
starter JV.
player. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Rotation player on varsity.
But to be on varsity as a freshman, is
freshman,
pretty
yeah.
impressive.
Very impressive.
No
And
matter how
Earl,
much
and it's funny. We were talking about Earl the other day. Earl says he has no basketball skill whatsoever.
Really?
I don't want to say
He's a
what
baseball guy.
Yeah, I
That's
don't
what
want
he
to say
told
what
us.
he said. He's a NASCAR and base. I don't want to repeat the words he said. I'll tell you guys off.
What?
camera.
Did people assume he was good because he's black?
No, I'm gonna just.
No, you went there.
Yeah, you went.
You
there.
also went to what? Wait, he likes NASCAR?
No, I thought that's what he was going to say. Is
No,
that people just assume I'm good because I'm
Well,
black?
it's a good thing
because a lot of
Earl's
white
into
people will
NASCAR.
do that. That's the
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
We also have a new sponsor tomorrow, guys.
No.
tease.
Tell us about it.
It's your boy,
Colleague?
Mr. NASCAR colleague.
Nice.
Starts on 4 times an hour.
No kidding.
Yep.
4 reads an hour?
Yep.
8 reads a show?
Nope, just a second half
I
hour.
think we need to do a
That's
NASCAR fantasy
fantastic.
league.
And they get a
People
spot
do
on
that.
Monday and
I
Friday.
know. I
yeah.
did it once.
They're really popular
I
with.
can't do any worse than football, so.
Yeah, you
I feel
can't.
like
You
we
can
should
lose
do a
like I did.
NASCAR fantasy league for no money.
Well, the season's already started. I mean, it doesn't mean we couldn't do one.
Nah, we couldn't.
But
You want to set it up?
Not really. I got enough going on in my life.
I don't want to do it.
Then we got a
Yeah,
final
maybe
take.
Earl
We have
can
2
set that
minutes.
one up for
We
us.
have 2 minutes left. Does
I
anybody
got
want to do a
nothing.
final take?
You got a final take?
We want to talk Last of Us for a sec without spoiling anything?
Sure. This is
It's the best new show in at least 2 years.
What's the show? What are we
It's
talking
so
about?
good.
The Last of Us on HBO.
Oh, yeah, you guys rave about
It's
that.
the best new show I've seen in at least 2 years.
the best show of the last 6 months is The Last of Us, which is on HBO, and then the Welcome to Chippendales. Did anybody see that? I know a lot of
My
guys are
friend
going to be
was
like,
in
I'm not watching a show about Chippendales.
No,
it was a great show.
My friend was in it. He had like a little
Oh, really?
minute speaking role, yeah.
Awesome show.
I haven't seen
It's
it.
a. It's a.
The main character in that's really good. I forget his name.
He was the.
He was also in something else that was really good.
he's
He's
a-
from
I-
India.
Everything
I
he
can't
does,
think of. I can't think of his name.
it becomes a hit.
I think his first name is Kumali, I believe.
Yes.
He's really funny.
Yeah.
He plays the lead. He's the main guy, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've read a little bit about the story of it. It's a bizarre story.
Well, there's a documentary on Hulu as well.
Yeah, that's separate
But
from
it's
the
really
series, though,
fascinating.
right? Is that?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
By the way, I've got an announcement coming next week about another podcast I'm starting about television. It's going to be on twice a month.
Yeah, that's the one you told us about where your son might
My
have
son's going to be on it for a couple of minutes every show.
We got to coach him up.
Yeah.
Because when he was in here, we talked to him about the movie.
He didn't give an answer.
He just got a little tight. He got a little tight.
I know.
But that, you know what? It's his first rep.
Well, we're going to
Second
practice.
rep. Yeah.
We're going to do some practice runs.
He's
but-
obviously
Go
a
see
bright kid.
go see Cocaine Bear this weekend too.
Oh yeah, I've had people tell me that is absolutely hilarious.
on my list.
I want to see it, but I
Is it
can't
as
go to
funny as the trailer makes it seem?
Yeah, it's 90 minutes of pure chaos.
Yeah,
it's
it looks
really
like
good.
it.
It
looks like
reminds me of that movie Lake Placid, which I liked.
It's bad, but it's
Yeah.
intentionally bad.
I can't go to the movies anymore, though, because I cannot go to a movie without eating popcorn, and I can't eat popcorn right now. So
Yeah, that's true.
overtime next.
See you in
All
overtime.
right, see you in overtime.